It's Query and Company.
I'm going to be keeping you company for the next few hours.
You are not going to believe the company.
This company.
You're going to bankrupt your mama's company?
At least I have the radio to keep me company.
On 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Pulisic trying to cut it back. It's back again. That time it's in. That time the flag is staying down. That time it's 2-0 United States. Clark to Boston right elbow. One more. Cunningham wants three. Give her three. Clark handles. Guarded by Lacan. Screen from Mitchell. Caitlin towards the corner. Lobs it inside. Boston sprays it up top. Sophie again. Good again. 5 on the shot clock. Hand off to the hot hand. Sophie. Now this time she drives. Layup. Good. Sophie Cunningham taking over down the stretch. That's 8 in a row for number 8. 33 seconds left. Fever up by 8. Sun not fouling. Caitlin shovel pass. Aaliyah right arc. Back to Caitlin. So Aaliyah back to Sophie. 3 left wing. Oh! Night in Connecticut.
What a deserving Stanley Cup champion the Carolina Hurricanes are.
And they're going to clinch it appropriately with a total team effort and a shutout. The Carolina Hurricanes have won the Stanley Cup. Wemby tries a three, puts it up, off the mark. Anunoby the rebound. It's over. It's over. Knicks fans, this is not a dream. Your long wait has ended. Go ahead and cry. After 53 years, the Knicks are finally NBA champions once again.
In fact, there were plenty of championship-level moments, I guess, over the course of the weekend. Obviously, the United States did not win the World Cup on Friday evening, but they did pick up a win, defeating in pretty resounding fashion. Is it Paraguay or Paraguay?
Paraguay.
Why not Paraguay?
I don't know.
We just go with the Y?
You just got to ask why not? Like, why not Indiana?
Thank you, Eddie. That's trademarked. I appreciate you mentioning that.
You're welcome.
By the way, is it me? And I realize that we're in here at a different time, okay? So maybe it is, in fact, what Kevin mentioned, which is a little uncomfortable, the fact the seat's warm. Is it me or is it 900 degrees in this studio?
I'm not sure. It's kind of cool in here, but we also had like a host of people in here.
I noticed you're wearing your cabana wear for the big show today, leading off at 10 o'clock. Is that right?
Cabana wear? No.
Are just because the show's now on at 10, are you on cruise wear? We're done at 1 o'clock. You're already set up for the beach?
I know, yeah.
You're going to be rocking Indiana Beach by 1:30?
Yeah, you said we're going to join a pool, Jake, so I gotta be in the attire.
I joined a pool, I'm telling you, man. I'm going to be just laying around. I'm going to look like Magda from Something About Mary.
Instead, you're in your Eastwood. Is that Eastwood Middle School football?
It is. Undefeated, baby. 85 and 86.
That shirt still fits?
So here's the... See, thank you for mentioning that. And by the way, good morning to you. Usually I'm typically used to saying good afternoon, but my name is Jake Query. That is Eddie Garrison. For those of you who are used to hearing right now ESPN programming, if you are unaware, from here forward, Query and Company, which you normally may have heard from noon until 3, now will be from 10 until 1 o'clock. And that is because Rich Eisen will air from 1 until 3. JMV takes over at 3 o'clock. So that is, and I got a kick out of some of the reactions from folks about the move of the show itself. And I made this pretty clear, I thought. But this wasn't something we were mandated to do. We long discussed it, and actually I mentioned it a while ago. I'm like, if we have to do 2 hours of ESPN programming per day, which I understand contractually, then Rich Eisen probably, I think people would, especially during the football season, there's more traction that can be had there. No disrespect to the ESPN programming that's taking place right now, but seems like it would be smarter to slide that down to the left and be able to get 2 hours of Rich Eisen. And so that's the origin of that decision. But same show that you're used to hearing from noon until 3, it will take a while before, and I will ask forgiveness. I'll give myself a week. I'm going to absolutely guarantee that at some point over the next week, I'm going to erroneously say, and thinking that it's noon, because it just, we've done it for so long at noon every day, so you forget that, in fact, it's 10 o'clock. But as you can tell right there by hearing Eddie Garrison's voice, it is the same show. And Eddie is dressed up in his finest cabana wear for the launch here as we apparently the cruise ship is leaving the harbor. But it was a weekend that you had.
Wah, wah.
Well, that sounded more like a truck than a cruise ship. Can you do that again, please?
Wah, wah.
And what if the cruise ship was actually a Nashville, Tennessee bachelorette party? There you go. So the weekend, and it is funny how things work in today's world. I will admit to this fact. The World Cup game on Friday night feels like 3 weeks ago. And the NBA title on Saturday night feels like 2 weeks ago. But, and there, because there was sport obviously between the two, you had the Stanley Cup final, as you just heard from Eddie as well, the Fever getting a win. And, it is unfortunate. I understand it. And there are a number of different areas and different ways in which we can dissect the necessity for the Fever having to silence critics or hear the noise about dissension and things like that. And yet, after winning in Connecticut, they were pretty vociferous about the fact of, no, it is just that. It is just noise, and it is just speculation. We'll get into that as well. Eddie, since you mentioned it, I will simply say, during the month of May, and I don't remember what the circumstance was, but I had to have a T-shirt custom made. I designed a T-shirt to get custom made. I can't remember what it was we were doing, but I bought like 3 of them, 3 shirts that I had to give out. And so the place where I did it was like, hey, you get like 2 free shirts of any design of your choice. And it had like generic templates of different things. And one of them was a generic eagle template, which was the exact eagle that we had when I was in middle school. So for fun, I had made a T-shirt commemorating our back-to-back undefeated seasons of 1985 and 1986 at Eastwood Middle School in football. And it kind of looks like it's an old shirt, right? But
Is that the last time they went undefeated?
I don't know. I do know this. I know that Tim Stone, our middle school coach, at practice one day said to us, if you guys go undefeated and finish this off, then we're going to put a plaque in the school. Someday you can bring your lady by and show it to her. I remember him saying that to me specifically. And they did put a plaque in the trophy case for probably 3 years, and they misspelled my name.
Now, who said that?
Tim Stone.
Was that Tim Stone or Jeff Spicoli?
Well, Tim Stone, who had a little Jeff Spicoli vibe about him. Great dude. But yes, we were undefeated 2 years in a row. Let's begin with this. Bittersweet Symphony probably was the perfect music to play underneath that montage because watching the New York Knicks win the NBA title was bittersweet. It was bittersweet. I was driving to work. Usually I turn it on. There's like national programming. This guy in Indy, 10 o'clock in the morning, local guy, and he's talking about the NBA Finals, talking about bittersweet. Now, what possibly could be sweet about the Knicks winning when I'm a Pacer fan? Totally get it. Totally get it. It's a little bittersweet for a couple of reasons, and the more bitter than sweet. Like, I'm still kind of bitter. Not bitter, because I can't be angry at Tyrese Halliburton. I can't be angry at the health of his Achilles a year ago. I can't be angry about that. But it's bitter because even though it's been a year now, and even though we've had time to sit back and a lot has happened, we can be bitter about the fact that Miles Turner left, and so the core was interrupted. We can be bitter about the fact that they traded for Zubats, but they didn't get return on investment on the trade, at least in terms of the draft aspect of it. We can be bitter about those things. And we can notably be bitter about the fact that not only did the Pacers not win a year ago when it was right there in the palm of their hands, at no fault really of theirs, but the fact that then we had to sit through that season with that disappointment, that heartache, that waiting game, and watch the key rival of the Pacers win a trophy for the first time in 53 years. And I really, truly believed that they would never win an NBA title so long as Jim Dolan was the owner. And I was wrong in that. They did. Congratulations to them. But there were a couple things about it that were bittersweet. That was all the bitter. That was all the bitter. But at the same time, there was an element of it that was just slightly sweet. And one of them was I was watching a team, and I don't mean this for some sort of bulletin board material. I don't mean this as some sort of trash talk material. I don't mean this as sour grapes. I mean it because I truly think it. A lot changes in a year. Rosters change, styles change, players mature, some regress. So one season does not equate to the next. However, the sweet in the bittersweet of watching the New York Knicks win an NBA title, speaking from the perspective of an Indianapolis sportscaster, and as I mentioned a year ago and confessed and asked for your forgiveness as a listening audience, it is the first time that I have said on the air, I am surrendering my journalistic professionalism here on the air and putting aside my objectivity to tell you I am all in on the Indiana Pacers because I've been a lifelong Pacer fan, and I never thought I'd see them win a title. And there they were a year ago, right on the cusp. And I was all in, and I loved every minute of it. And I look back fondly to this day on the memories of that run. It was magic. And so, therefore, it was bitter to watch their bitter rival, who they have owned, take advantage of the vacancy. And I'm probably putting out something that someone could clip and play on the internet and in the interwebs, which live forever. I probably am talking about something here that people are going to say, listen to this moron in Indiana, this homer. Guilty as charged. But here's what I'm going to say. And I say it not because I'm necessarily a homer radio host in Indianapolis. I say it because in Indianapolis, I truly believe that I'm speaking for the city that I have always called home. I'm speaking for the majority of people around Indianapolis when I say this. The Houston Rockets have back-to-back NBA titles. 94-95. Akeem Olajuwon's one of the most underrated players in the history of the game. They added Clyde Drexler for year number 2. And the Houston Rockets were absolutely led by one of the great players of all time in Akeem Olajuwon. But everyone knows that they got those 2 titles because Michael Jordan was trying to hit curveballs. Everyone knows that. I realized year two was when, he came back and he was there for, he rejoined like with a month ago in the season. But nonetheless, everyone knows that the Houston Rockets, there's that word I can never say, asterisk, that's right next to those 2 in the minds of basketball fans. And it's a little different because I get it. Tyrese Halliburton is not Michael Jordan, and the Pacers are not the Bulls who had won 3 straight and then won 3 straight again after that 2-year window for the Houston Rockets. But I speak for Pacer fans across the city of Indianapolis, and maybe it's just in Indianapolis, and maybe this and $1 will get you a copy of the Star. I get it. But I truly do believe that if Indiana comes back and they're fully healthy, big if, but if they do, the sweet and the bittersweet of seeing the New York Knicks, and kudos to New York winning a title, but the sweet and the bittersweet is the fact that you look at it and you say, if this Pacers team is able to come back healthy and they're able to gel together with Zubats, and it might take a year of doing that, a year of gelling, a year of figuring it out, a year of schematically doing things differently. But if they're able to do that, that's the biggest obstacle. That's the biggest hurdle. The team that they absolutely dispatched of, like, without real contention a year ago, and who they have absolutely owned in the postseason now for a decade. That's the hurdle. Now, at least in terms of the East, we can talk about San Antonio and Oklahoma City till the cows come home. But at least in terms of getting back to the finals and getting in position, you have to feel good about it. Now, the other sweet and the bittersweet is this. Yeah, I'm bitter because I wanted that for Indianapolis. When the Pacers were up, well, it was 1-1. They went up 2-1 back here, and they're getting ready for Game 4. It's on a Friday night. We had Austin Crozier on, and we had all these people on, and I'm thinking to myself, as everybody in town is, they should win tonight at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, and they're going to be up 3-1. Oh, my goodness. Holy cow. And that reality was starting to set in that, in fact, and we started talking about it then, how are we going to broadcast the parade? Maybe we put the cart before the horse. But literally, the Sugar Plum Fairies were dancing in our heads. And I started to believe it. I started to feel it, what it would mean for this town to be NBA champions. And you know what? I will confess this. And I appreciate the New York Knickerbockers for this reason. In the summer of 1994, as I've talked about many times, I was interning and living in New York City. I wore my shirt nearly every single day in Manhattan. Pacers basketball. You remember the old, I don't remember if they were Nike or Adidas shirts, but they had them for every team, like just Pacers, and then underneath it, basketball, navy blue shirt. Wore it nearly every day. Every picture I have that summer, I'm thinking to myself, did I even do laundry? I'm wearing that same shirt like in every picture. And it's because that was the run. That was the start of it. That was the Spike versus Reggie, choke series, all of that. 94. And the Knicks went on to play, wait for it, the Houston Rockets in the NBA Finals. The Bronco chase. You know the finals. And I saw that city come alive. And I love New York City. Love it. And if you've lived in New York or even spent a weekend in New York, but let alone lived there at an impressionable age, it's impossible to not have the influence of New York City embedded in you a little bit if you spent time there at that age. So when the Knicks won, and thank goodness they won it in San Antonio, because I can only imagine what would have happened at the Garden if they'd have won it in New York City. Because there already was, when you've got 17 million people in a metro area, you're going to have some bad apples, right? And things can get a little bit haywire. But I saw the videos. I saw the videos of like the entire Greenwich Village, the West Village. People hanging, literally you couldn't see pavement anywhere in the concrete jungle. And people standing out, and all of them in unison. Tens of thousands of people together singing Empire State of Mind. People all over the boroughs in Brooklyn and in Queens and the Bronx singing New York, New York. And this, because I've always said, nothing unifies the masses like sport. People that otherwise have nothing in common with one another and would go toe-to-toe, and they are hugging and embracing and high-fiving, and it brings together everybody. And that's when it was not bitter because we were denied that a year ago, but sweet because I still feel it's within our grasp. And I thought about what it would look like to see Fountain Square going crazy and Mass Ave and the streets filled with a watch party and Broad Ripple and people pouring out of the bars in Broad Ripple, those that are left. And Gainbridge Fieldhouse with a watch party and people then spilling out of there and moving their way down towards the southeast, perhaps towards Fountain Square and Greenwood, and all of it coming together. And everybody's celebrating. And I truly believe, Eddie, maybe I'm naive. Maybe I'm just optimistic Ollie. But I'm telling you right now, I truly think it's possibly within our grasp within the next 2 years. It's a 2-year window, though. 2-year window. But when you think about New York, and Jalen Brunson's tremendous, wonderful player, and Karl Anthony Towns is a great story, and OG Anunoby was a huge piece for them in his emergence and the quiet, reluctant superstar. But when you think about New York and that group and that team just kind of keep their nose to the grind, and they felt they were denied a year ago because Indiana knocked them out, and they came back and they got it done. When you think about that, then you look at it and say, is it really out of the realm of possibility that the Pacers get back there? And I don't know that I've seen anything that brought this city together in the last, in the time that I've covered sports, certainly since the Colts winning the Super Bowl. But the Colts were a little bit different because it was kind of expected. With the Colts winning the Super Bowl, it was almost like a relief. They finally got it done. The ghosts of the Nick Harper, Ben Roethlisberger trip are behind us now. That was the sweet and the bittersweet, is the fact that you can be bitter that they didn't get it done a year ago, but I find it sweet that it would seem as though the possibility is there moving forward. Also, over the weekend, yesterday, early in the morning, I woke up, had a text in a group text that I'm on for all of us that do stuff for IndyCar Radio, and I totally understand that the majority of you listening probably are unfamiliar with racing in general, but those that are involved with it in the very nuanced or niche level. You certainly know of Dreyer Reinbold, the business, the car dealership, but you may not have known a lot about Dennis Reinbold. Dennis Reinbold, who, of course, is the namesake of both Dreyer and Reinbold because it's family merger there, business. But he's been an IndyCar owner for a number of years, all the way back to the beginning of the IRL days. But Dennis Reinbold, who's a graduate of Cascade High School, just west of Indianapolis, he was a member of their inaugural Hall of Fame class in 1979. And his racing roots run pretty deep. Grandfather moved here to get involved in racing. His uncle was a mechanic involved in racing. Lloyd Ruby, his uncle worked on Lloyd Ruby's car, the Hard Luck Charger that knocked on the door, never got it done, but was a great driver in the Indy 500 lore. And Dennis Reinbold was, and I didn't know him well, did not know him well, but Dennis Reinbold owned Dreyer and Reinbold Racing, which fielded Robbie Buell, put him on the front row in Indianapolis, had success. Matter of fact, won with Robbie Buell in Walt Disney World back in the early IRL days. And then Dreyer and Reinbold Racing kind of became known as not a full-time team. And yes, they'd had great drivers that had driven for them. Townsend Bell drove for them. Buddy Rice drove for them. Ryan Hunter-Reay should have won the Indianapolis 500 a year ago driving for them. This year, Connor Daly, really fast, in partnership along with Renus VK, really good. Jack Harvey drove for him. And I was relatively surprised, as you can imagine, to get the text yesterday that said that Dennis Reinbold had passed away at the age of, I believe, 65. And what I knew about Dennis Reinbold was that he, in the times that I had been around him, he was understated, quiet, confident. But I remember the very first time that I was around him thinking, man, for a guy whose name is pretty synonymous with just like class and success around Indianapolis, he's pretty humble. Pretty like unassuming. And I always appreciated that about him. But one thing that I've always believed in is loyalty and standing true to your principle. And in the case of Dennis Reinbold, who, as I mentioned, passed away at the age of 65 after a very private and quiet journey with cancer. And it was announced yesterday of his passing, and fortunately his family was around him. But this morning when I got up, I thought to myself, it's our first show at 10 a.m. It's our first show. Perhaps there are people that are tuning in that are totally unfamiliar with this program or with me or with Eddie or whatever it might be, and Eddie's cabana wear and everything else. And Eddie's ability to great sound effects like cruise ships and bachelorette parties. But I thought, I think people should know about what Dennis Reinbold represented, even if they're not a fan of racing, even if they're not familiar with Indianapolis, because there's a lesson to be had in it. And then I thought, who can I get that represents loyalty and belief as represented by Dennis Reinbold? And I thought to myself, I've got it. I've got it. A guy that was a rookie of the year, a guy that ran 6 Indy 500s and 5 of them he drove for Dennis Reinbold, and a guy that, while a lot of people might have thought that the sands of the hourglass were running out on this guy's career at Indianapolis, Dennis Reinbold continued to stand by him. And so I reached out to him and said, any chance you can join the program on Monday? And he wrote back and said, absolutely. Absolutely. And so as a result, that driver to shed light on those principles joins us next.
This is Query and Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Dennis Reinbold passing away at the age of 65. Again, many of you may be unfamiliar with, I guess, just the man that was. Sure, you know the name Dreyer and Reinbold, whether it be the car dealership or the race team itself. But a guy that has run 9 Indianapolis 500s, and I believe 8 of those 9 he drove for Dennis Reinbold. He was the Rookie of the Year in the Indianapolis 500-mile race, driving for Dreyer and Reinbold, and continued to come back and run fast. Sage Karam joins me on the program to talk about Dennis Reinbold. Sage, first off, it is always a pleasure. How are you?
Yeah, good, Jake. Thanks for having me. Wish we were talking on different circumstances here, but good to talk to you again. It's been a while.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. And I'll be honest with you, Sage. When I heard this news of Dennis Reinbold passing, and realized that a lot of my listeners may not know the real story behind Dennis Reinbold, or really know, oh gosh, I forgot the guy that was a car dealer, was a car owner. And I thought that you best exemplified the two things that I think you look for in any person, and that is just stability and loyalty. And from my observation and from far on the outside, I would assume that he represents those two things to you, stability and loyalty throughout your racing career and life. Is that a fair assumption?
Absolutely. I mean, for a very, very long time in my career, looked at Dennis as a second father. And, after my accident that I had at Pocono in 2015, it became very difficult for me to, get opportunities at other race teams and everything. But, like you said, I've done 8 Indy 500s with Dennis, and actually the 9th, was with Chip Ganassi. But, that whole relationship with Chip started out in 2014, allowing me to race with a partnership with Dennis. So that's how I got involved with it. And after my accident, Dennis was really the only team owner or person really in racing that saw my talent, saw my ability, and had just tremendous faith in me and loyalty to me, and brought me in for 8 more Indy 500s. And we had some really strong race cars. He always brought an incredible race car to the track for the month of May. I don't think people realize how hard it is to do what DRR was and is doing. To show up not racing all year long at the biggest race in the world and be able to run with the top teams like Penske, Ganassi, Andretti. I mean, it's no small feat. And, he kept employees on all year long and, definitely made sacrifices to do it. But Indy 500, IndyCar racing, that was his love. And I've always said, for me, like my biggest goal in life was to win the Indy 500. But I actually, for the longest time too, held a bigger goal, and that was actually to win for Dennis and that team, because he just built such a family-oriented program there, and I really just felt one with them, and I just wanted to win so bad for him and that team. And his name, the Reinbold name, has been around the Indy Motor Speedway for a very, very long time, and to never get that win, that was one thing I really wanted to do for him.
But, Sage, one area in where you might have gotten that win, and I want to get into this. I mean, you can tell in the background, you're a father now, right? You have young children. You were a kid. I mean, frankly, you yourself were a kid when you first hit the scene, whether it be in Indy Lights and then into the Indy 500. I think you were 19 when you ran your first Indy. And you've grown into, and we can get into, I know that you had some challenges, like you talked about your accident in Pocono. You had those challenges, but you overcame that now, and you're a family man and a young guy, and you've got a great father. I mean, your dad, a wrestling coach that I know you're very, very close with. But how much did Dennis Reinbold, in fact, instill in you as well, in addition to your family, that principle of family itself?
Yeah, I mean, so sorry you hear the kids in the background.
No, it's not a bad thing at all. It's a good thing.
I'm in Outer Banks. We go down here every year. So, it's a fun trip for us. But yeah, like you said, when I first came in, I was a high school senior in my first Indy 500. So, pretty immature and didn't know really anything. And my first IndyCar race was the Indy 500. So, I had so much to learn and so much to mature in life. And then especially after my accident, I went through some very, very difficult times, and the stability that Dennis had for me, I mean, honestly, is what kept kind of like my love for racing intact and just my love for life intact. Because at that time, like, the only thing I really had to look forward to was the Indy 500 and was with Brian Reinbold. And, so him keeping that stability, I don't know if he knew it, but that meant so much to me and helped me so much along the way. I mean, I just feel like if I didn't have racing at all in that time, it would have been so difficult for me to navigate life. And, I think if no matter who you talk to, the one thing you're gonna learn about Dennis is there's not going to be a single person that's going to have one negative thing to say about him as a human being, or as a businessman, or as a team owner, anything. I mean, and that's so rare to find nowadays, just in life or anything, especially motorsports. And he just, the principles he had and the human being he was, it's what you strive to be in life. And he loved every day and loved the Indy 500. And I can't thank him enough. I mean, he's given me just tremendous memories that I'm going to cherish my entire life and be able to tell my kids about one day, and when I take them to the Indy 500 for their first time, and it's going to mean the world to me to be able to see it through their eyes and just kind of give them a look of, like, this is what I used to do, and the only reason I can really do that is because of the sacrifices and the willingness that Dennis had to put me in his car. And I just can't believe it. I love the man, and always have, and I love that team. I think most of the people that are still working there are most of the people that were on my cars. So, I mean, it's just such a family oriented team. They're not actually family, but they just, it is like a family, and so much tradition and respect at that team. It's a big loss for the racing world, for sure, and for myself.
Sage Karam is my guest. For those that are unfamiliar, and I apologize, Sage, to bring this back up, but I think now, it's part of the story, and that is the accident that you're referencing is when you were leading a race in Pocono in 2015, and at no fault of yours, obviously, in a racing incident, the accident that you were involved in also involved Justin Wilson, and his injuries were fatal. And I know, and you have been and I commend it, you've been very open about your emotional journey from that. And I think being around you a little bit at that time, I think to an extent, and I understand this, there was probably like this shock nature of not really grasping all that you were going to have to navigate. In that emotional journey that you took, did Dennis Reinbold help you through that by words and by talking to you, or just simply by the example of being there for you?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I was really young when this happened. I think when this accident happened, I was 20 years old. And at that time, in 2015, mental health wasn't kind of at the forefront of a lot of conversations like it is today, especially in sports. And, so I kind of was, I don't want to say like outcasted, but kind of, again, and, I think a lot of teams and people just believed that I was going to be dealing with too much, and I wasn't going to be able to come back as the same person, as the same driver, and it totally affected my career in a negative way. I mean, it ultimately, I think, completely ended my IndyCar career as trying to become like a full-time driver or something like that. But Dennis like I said earlier, was the only one that really kept the faith in me and allowed me to still live out the dream of being an IndyCar driver. So for him to put me in the car, it kept my dream alive and my journey alive for being a race car driver. But it also was just one of those things where it just showed me as a person that there were people that didn't look at me differently and still, respected me and believed in me. And, that's like what I needed. I for the longest time being that young, I put the weight of the world on my shoulders. I blame myself for a lot in that moment. And, he was one of the few people that, constantly and consistently, made me feel like it wasn't my fault and just showed me love and never changed how he, treated me or anything like that. He just believed in me as a race car driver. He believed in me as a human being. And, that's all you can ask for. And like I said earlier, when I said I looked at him as a second father, I really did. I spoke to Dennis, open-heartedly a lot of times. I probably would tell Dennis things I didn't tell my own father, because that was just the type of relationship we had. And, I don't know. I can't thank him enough for just being that role in my life. It was just something I totally needed, being that young. I think I just was so immature and just needed guidance. And he was definitely one of those people that could guide me, to the right direction.
Well, Sage, like I said, I know that you wanted to technically, by definition, win a race for Dreyer and Reinbold, right? I know you wanted to hoist a trophy or take the checkered flag for them. But, I think I can say this pretty confidently and comfortably, being somebody that's still involved, within the series and around the paddock. And that is that not only do I think you did that and made him proud, I think you made him proud based on the fact that you continued to run for him, or, that you continued to run for him. Obviously, there was a belief, there was a pride from Dennis Reinbold. But in addition to that, knowing Steph Wilson and having known Justin Wilson, I think those two would be really proud as well of your journey, of where you are, the fact that you have a family now, you're enjoying a vacation, and that you're able to speak eloquently about a guy that was a second father to you is something that I tip my cap to you. And it's always a pleasure to see you around, racetracks for sure, but I know that obviously you got a life now as a young man as well, and I certainly appreciate you carving out a little time for us today.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you for having me. And like I said, I love being at the Speedway. I'd love to be back, and I'd love to be, hopefully the DRR team is going to be able to, find its feet and still run. And I'd love to run it again in Dennis's honor and still try and achieve that dream for myself and for him and for that team. And, we'll see. I think the biggest thing, it just shows the confidence he had in me. He hired me for 8 Indy 500s and, I never asked me to bring a dime. And, that's just so rare nowadays. And I just think about that all the time, of just the immense confidence he had in me was unbelievable. And I can't thank him enough for the memories and the, just everything he's done for me in my career. And he's going to be greatly missed. And, I'm always rooting on that crew and that team. And, they ran strong this year, and I was pulling for Connor, and what a story that would have been. But, I think at the end of the day, this was one of their best shots to win the Indy 500. So for him to be there and see that and call that race, I think was a beautiful thing for him. I know he wants to win it so bad. So for him to have that shot this year was great. And hopefully I can see you all at a track again soon.
Appreciate it, Sage. Enjoy the vacation. All right.
Yep. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Sage Karam joining us on the program. Really good stuff there. Always like Sage Karam. Great dude. No question about it. Great dude. We come back. Yes, indeed. The Fever, again, are having to say, look, silence the noise. But they're doing it in the best way possible, even though maybe they can go back and look at it and say, maybe we should have handled things a little bit differently. I'll explain everything I'm talking about. We'll do it on the other side. Hey there, Jake Query for Love Heating and Air. Love-HVAC.com is the website. 317-353-2141 is the telephone number. Love Heating and Air, an official Heil Heating and Cooling dealer. And this time of year, notably, starting to already get warm and sticky out there. You want to make sure the AC is up and running, and Love Heating and Air is the best for that, because not only do they give you the best product as an official Heil Heating and Cooling dealer, but 24-hour on-call maintenance and honesty and integrity. Great product, great knowledge of product, but honesty, integrity is a big thing, especially when you are inviting a company into your home. That's what you get from the great folks at Love Heating and Air. Over 100 years of business in central Indiana. They have been like family to me, and they will treat you like family as well. 317-353-2141 is the telephone number. Love-HVAC.com for Love Heating and Air, an official Heil Heating and Cooling dealer.
Query and Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Fever now standing at 8-5. Thanks again, by the way, to Sage Karam. And again, I totally understand and I respect the fact that a lot of people listening to the show may not be familiar with Brian Reinbold Racing, and they may not be familiar with Sage Karam. But I don't know that you have to be familiar with either to understand and appreciate what he was talking about right there. Just in terms of there's a lesson to be had there for all of us in terms of just belief and loyalty. Those are my two key words there with that.
Do you know who beat him in 2014 as the Indianapolis 500 Rookie of the Year winner?
I thought he was the Rookie of the Year winner. He finished ninth.
He was not.
Okay. I should know this.
Mm-hmm.
He finished ninth that year. I'm certain that I voted for him. I know that Ed Jones was the Rookie of the Year in the year that Fernando Alonso was there, and people were – or no, I'm sorry. Fernando Alonso was the Rookie of the Year, and Ed Jones finished on the podium, and people were like, how was he not Rookie of the Year? Give me the team.
He was with Andretti Autosport.
Okay, hit me with it. I should know this.
Kurt Busch.
Yeah, I should have known that. He was sixth, I think, right?
He did finish sixth,
yeah,
yes.
I should have known that. I did. It's weird to say, Eddie, because after a while, the years hard to believe this. This was my 20th Indy 500 that I broadcast, so they start to kind of mesh together. I hate to say it. I hate admitting that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not surprising, Jake. I mean, when you got that many in the bank and you're in the second half century of your life, that's what happens, right?
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to keep it straight, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So the Fever are now 8-5. They win at Connecticut 85-75 on Saturday night. And I think at this point you'd have to say, any win, regardless of, for example, they've got Toronto tomorrow night, right? Is that home or away?
The Tempo, that is a home game.
So that's one of them that you look at and you think to yourself, well, that should be a W, right? I don't think you take anything for granted. And I know that I'm making too much of this. Let me give you an example when I say the noise. And I'm aware of it. It's just, to me, I find this really intriguing. But over the weekend, I think it was on Friday night, and the news story, the big headline was the world has its first trillionaire. Okay? And Elon Musk now a trillionaire. Now, of course, I know, as anybody I would think knows, that doesn't mean that he goes into PNC Bank and can withdraw $1 trillion. It means that his net worth is valuated to be that based on assets and stocks and ownership and everything else. So it doesn't mean that he's literally has access to $1 trillion. But I was trying to I was thinking to myself, how big is that? How big a number is that? And then I read an article that said something like there are the top, I think it was 20 billionaires in the world, like is 25 billion and higher. Maybe it was the top 20 billionaires in the United States. So I figured up, I'm like, how much money is $1 trillion, tangibly speaking? Right? Just the number itself. How big a number is $1 trillion? And so I just took the population of the United States and divided it, whatever. And I'm like, wow, if he accounted $2,800 for every single American of any age, that would still put him in the top 20 wealthiest Americans, because he would still have over $25 billion if $2,800 was removed for every American. And I simply sent a post on that on the X Post Twitter that just said, if Elon Musk gave every American $2,800, he would still be in the top 20 at over $25 billion. Somehow or another, and it's like 3 people commented. Well, the next day in the algorithm of the vortex of social media, because Elon Musk, that term was there, the bots got a hold of it. And then it became, you're a communist. Why should he give you his money? Get a job. You're lazy. Stick to announcing. I don't think anybody really thought that I was saying he should give $2,800 to people. I was just trying to illustrate what the number was, right? And so, I mean, it's commendable what he has accumulated, regardless of what you think of him, whatever else. But the vortex, literally, it was draining my battery because I couldn't keep, the constant mentions and everything else. And I truly do think, I know I sound like an old man yelling at clouds. I do actually love Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, Facebook, Instagram. I'm pretty active on all of them. So I'm not a dinosaur here. But there are certain phrases or words or whatever else that the algorithms get a hold of. And Caitlin Clark is one of them. Caitlin Clark is a Jordan-level brand. A Jordan-level brand, undeniably. But that can come, there's good to that, and there's bad to that. And sometimes it needs to be addressed, which it was after the game. We'll let you hear from that. We'll get into that. We'll do it on the other side here. Hour number 1 complete with Eddie's Cabana Wear. What do you think, Eddie? 10 to 11. Did it feel the same as 12 to 1?
I don't know yet. You got a jolt of life to when you start the show because of just the hectic nature of the handoff between the morning show and us.
That takes a little getting used to.
Now, will that high come down is the question. Will we ever just become normal?
Well, I mean, like I said, we're only, right now is usually the wake-up time. Matter of fact, my alarm will probably go off here in a second.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll let you hear from Stephanie White, what was said, Caitlin Clark. We'll get back into it other side. Hey, there's Jake Query for Surfside. Just heard Eddie and I talking about the fact now. Off at 1 o'clock every day. Be poolside before you know it. Surfside, the perfect companion for that. Iced tea with a little splash of vodka or lemonade with a splash of vodka. And Surfside, which is 100 calories and no carbonation, is oh so smooth. It is the perfect companion for this time of year. A wide variety of flavors. The blueberry lemonade has been huge. I love just the straight tea. The raspberry tea is also outstanding. You can do variety packs as well. Look for Surfside wherever you buy your favorite adult beverages. Look for the can with the sunset stripes. Surfside, don't take the imposters. Surfside is the very best. Look for it wherever you buy your favorite beverages. Please be 21 and please consume responsibly.
It's Query and Company.
I'm going to be keeping you company for the next few hours.
You are not going to believe the company.
This company.
You're going to bankrupt your mama's company.
At least I have the radio to keep me company.
On 93.5 and 107.5, The Fan.
Pulisic trying to cut it back. It's Balogun. That time it's in. That time the flag is staying down. That time it's 2-0 United States. Clark to Boston right elbow. One more. Cunningham wants three. Give her three. Clark handles. Guarded by Lacan. Screen from Mitchell. Caitlin towards the corner. Lobs it inside. Boston sprays it up top. Sophie again. Good again. 5 on the shot clock. Hand off to the hot hand. Sophie. Now this time she drives. Layup. Good. Sophie Cunningham taking over down the stretch. That's 8 in a row for number 8. 33 seconds left. Fever up by 8. Sun not fouling. Caitlin shovel pass. Aaliyah right arc. Back to Caitlin. So Aaliyah back to Sophie. 3 left wing. Oh! Night in Connecticut.
What a deserving Stanley Cup champion the Carolina Hurricanes are.
And they're going to clinch it appropriately with a total team effort and a shutout. The Carolina Hurricanes have won the Stanley Cup. Wemby tries a 3, puts it up, off the mark. Anunoby the rebound. It's over. It's over. Knicks fans, this is not a dream. Your long wait has ended. Go ahead and cry. After 53 years, the Knicks are finally NBA champions once again.
That's how it sounded over the weekend in sport. The Carolina Hurricanes, your Stanley Cup final champion. The New York Knicks, the NBA champion. Fever winning in Connecticut. World Cup, United States over now hold on, Eddie. Paraguay.
Paraguay, yes. Good job.
Now, is it Uruguay or Uruguay?
I believe it's also Uruguay.
But it's not Ura, right? It's Ura. It's Uruguay, right?
Sure. I guess. Yeah, I don't know.
And I didn't know. Somebody help me out with this. Because I will plead, again, I think the one thing on this show, and I appreciate this from Michael before we get into the Fever stuff here. Michael sent me this, Eddie. People new to Query and Company will realize very quickly, if they haven't already, through all the silliness and fantastic jokes. See, people love the jokes, Eddie.
I think they're talking about my jokes.
No, I think the messy joke, people loved it.
No.
Jake and Eddie bring both of those to the show, but there is genuine kindness, compassion, and humanity brought every day. I appreciate that.
That's a great testimonial. We should put that in the bio of our X-Post Twitter account.
That, honestly, I did not. That is unsolicited. That's sent to me from Michael, which is a very kind thing to say and very much appreciated. And so with that, I'd like to think that you also get authenticity. As a younger guy, we talked to Sage Karam earlier. Really good conversation. And now I can say, hey, if you want to listen to that, you can do so before John comes on at 3. But we ask that when there is live programming done here at the station, that you tune into that. But, Sage Karam was a young guy when he first began running at the Indy 500. He was 19 years old. And now he's, and he was pretty immature. And now an adult, a family man. And Dennis Reinbold, who we talked about passing away over the weekend at the age of 65, was a big part of that. And I appreciated Sage talking about exactly that. But the growth and the maturity that takes place. As a younger guy, I probably didn't have that, and I don't know that I was as honest because I always felt like through my own insecurities of doing radio or television or whatever else that I had to be something that I wasn't. And now that I'm older, and it's probably just you get to a point where you're like, look, this is who I am. So based on that, I'm not going to try to be somebody that I'm not. And I genuinely do not know this answer. The United States opening, and we went on Friday evening. I went to...
You and Shannon?
Correct.
Okay. Oh, I saw pictures.
You did?
I did.
Where did you see pictures?
On the Book of Faces.
I didn't post pictures on the Book of Faces.
I know. You were tagged in pictures of...
Oh, really?
Yes.
By who?
Do you want me to out the person? I didn't
Sure.
know if it was a secret event.
No, it's fine.
Anne-Marie Tiernan.
Okay. Anne-Marie was where we were. Yes, that's correct.
What's funny? You know how sometimes they say, oh, that's, Eddie and Olivia or Liv and Eddie or whatever the case. It was Shannon and Jake.
Well, it was left to right.
No. I don't think that had any impact on it.
No, I think Chris Knight said that, right? I mean, we know the priority there. Amp Harris, congratulations to Amp and his wife, Kirsten, for their marriage. And the reception was at the Idlejourg. It was garden attire. And I wasn't sure what garden attire meant, but I went out and bought my seersucker pants and then wore a coral orange shirt, and it appears as though that was correct.
Yeah, I couldn't see the seersucker pants. The picture that Anne-Marie took was not very conducive for the pants, Jake.
Did I look okay?
You looked orange.
Okay, thank you. At any rate, after that, we then went from there and went to our late dinner, and the game was on, and I was sitting next to a really nice fella from Kenya. And he was explaining to me that the United States was playing like as well as they could play in that game against Paraguay. 4-1 the win. But here's my question. I will admit my ignorance in asking this question because I don't know it. Was this like a 1 versus 16 seed? I think the United States wouldn't be considered a 1 seed in world soccer, but probably if we're going NCAA tournament, a 4 seed probably, I'm guessing. But is Paraguay considered, like, were they expected to win in that resounding fashion, or is Paraguay actually pretty good? I think they scored a lot of goals throughout their tournament, advancing into the World Cup, playing against very good South American countries. So seemingly, at the very least defensively, that was an impressive win for the United States.
So if you follow the FIFA World Cup rankings, Jake, prior to that match, the United States was ranked 17th.
Okay.
Paraguay 41st, just in the world rankings. Now, that is going to be the easiest opponent in their group. So the harder matches are to come.
Gotcha. Okay.
For the United States men's national team.
Okay. Fair enough. Okay. The Fever winning in Connecticut. And I talked about the noise. You were talking about the Book of Faces, the social media in general. One of the areas where I think the Fever failed is the wrong word. Where I think they underestimated is a better word. You know, when Michael Jordan first came to the league, we had this conversation yesterday, actually. I had this conversation with some people, but I got to really thinking about it. And Jordan was a big topic of the conversation here. When Michael Jordan first came into the NBA, and I remember being in Chicago as a kid, we would go every year at Christmas time, so it would have been Jordan's rookie year at Christmas time. So this would have been 2 months after his career took off. He had an ankle injury as a rookie for the Bulls, and so his time was stunted in his rookie year. But you knew because of the 84 Olympic Games that took place between when he left North Carolina and his rookie year in that summer, everyone knew how good he was going to be. I mean, he's already an elite player at North Carolina and the National Player of the Year, and then the cover of Sports Illustrated, up, and away. And it was clear in the 84 Olympics in Los Angeles that Jordan was the guy. And Nike immediately signed him, and the Air Jordans came out, and the brand was born. The brand was born. But the Bulls basically had the silhouette of the Nike brand of Jumpman. And then he had the quote of, look, Republicans buy shoes too. And that was the extent of Michael Jordan expressing anything or being known for anything other than basketball. He was just a basketball player brand. And that worked. And it worked well. And it became the biggest commercialized brand in the history of sport worldwide. And he became, and probably still is, the most famous athlete in the world. But Michael Jordan, what we didn't know about Michael Jordan then was that Michael Jordan loved to gamble, that Michael Jordan had a nastiness about him, that Michael Jordan was a pretty selfish dude, that Michael Jordan may not have been the best teammate in the world because he expected and demanded greatness from everybody around him and was absolutely intolerant of anything other than that. All of those ingredients made him the player that he was. But Michael Jordan, the brand, in 1984, 1994, 2004, he didn't have the iPhone. He didn't have X. He didn't have Facebook. He didn't have Instagram. He didn't have TikTok. And I think to some extent, the Fever with Caitlin Clark when she was, without question, at Iowa, a transcendent brand. People were watching Final Fours with Iowa in it because they wanted to see this phenom that was playing for Iowa. And when she came to the Fever, to an extent, I think they tried to almost over-insulate her and keep her with that same sterility that the Bulls had with Jordan. But you simply cannot do that in this day and age. And so if you are not providing some level of content, people will then create it instead if they are thirsting for it. And so narratives began being thrown out there all the time about her because of this ubiquitous discussion about her, because people were wanting to know what it was that was driving. And I'm not saying that she doesn't talk to the media. She talks before every game, after every game, before every practice, after every practice. But very seldomly is she in situations where she's able to do that independently, where you truly feel like you're getting the real answers, the real insight. And for that reason, the narratives were starting to drive the storyline as opposed to the other way around. So after the game against Connecticut, and it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate because the Fever, and again, keep in mind, she is an elite level player and the straw that mixes the drink, but she is that And she is the key Jenga piece to the puzzle that is the Indiana Fever. She is all of those things, but she wasn't there for the vast majority of last year due to injury. So they are still working her into the chemistry and the symmetry that they had a year ago that took them as far as they got in the playoffs. And for that reason, I think there have been some learning curves this year and some gelling process. Maybe now, and maybe the schedule helps, but they've won 3 in a row. They're now 8-5, yet they're still having to answer questions about sideline clips that you see of Caitlin Clark and Stephanie White on the bench. And both of them addressed exactly that. Even though the story should be the 3-game win streak, they're still answering those questions. And beginning with Caitlin Clark and then Stephanie White, they had something to say about it after their win in Connecticut.
We're on a 3-game winning streak. We're doing good.
It's 4 from that.
Damn right.
I mean, if y'all want to address it, I mean, clearly the stats and say tell me all, but
Yeah, I think our
if you guys
play.
want to address it, please do it.
I don't know if their report says as much as.
I think it's speculation.
I think speculations.
Opinions. I don't know about reports.
I think you're talking about. I don't think you're talking about journalism. And so if we're going to continue to create news from fans on social media or bots on social media or whatever it may be, then that's a problem, right? I think legitimate news sources need to report legitimate news.
Ooh, I like that. Scary. That's all we got.
Okay, the last one you heard there, ooh, facts, that was Caitlin Clark. And Caitlin Clark was the one at the beginning, like, we're on a 3-game win streak. And you heard Stephanie White say, if you want to talk about bots, and look, it's reality. It's reality, and I commend them because I think now they're starting to say, look, we're trying to silence this out. And it's a gray area for Stephanie White, for all of us, because what is journalism today? What is it? I know what I think it is. I know what old school people think it is. Jenna Fryer, who joined me for a lot of our shows in May when I was out at the Speedway. Jenna's been a longtime writer for the Associated Press. The Associated Press, like journalism, right? You have to triple confirm everything and have sources and et cetera. That's all. You can't have a rooting interest. That's journalism. And Stephanie White there is saying, like, look, where's the journalism with saying that Caitlin Clark and Stephanie White don't get along? What's the journalism in that? Speculation, yes. And at times, again, like I said, there have been moments and times where the organization itself has allowed that narrative to drive the storyline. But I think what you're seeing here is, and Stephanie White and I are, you heard her mention when she couldn't believe that I didn't know Garth Brooks songs that well. We're the same, relatively. I'm older than Coach White, but we're of the same era. And so I understand the narrative of journalism and what that means. But it's a brave new world. It's a new frontier. And Jenna Fryer caught a lot of heat recently because she wrote a column about the lack of journalism within media circles covering motorsports. Jenna, who told us in May that she took the buyout to essentially retire from the Associated Press. In today's world and today's news consumption is largely based on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and X and social media, and an instantaneous click world where people want the headline and the bullet points. When I was in college, there were a couple of geniuses that started an organization called the Note Network, where you had to, if you had a certain grade point average, you could get paid You had to go and show them your transcripts. It was like being an Uber driver. You had to show like that you had a clean driving record in order to then be hired by Uber to drive other people. If you were at Indiana University, and I'm assuming they did this at other schools, if you had a certain grade point average, you could get hired by the Note Network, where then each day in class, you wrote your notes, you took them to the Note Network, they photocopied it and then put them into a booklet, and you got paid, and then other kids that didn't go to class that day could go in and buy the notes from that day because they wanted the Cliff Notes version. They didn't want to have to go the length of finding out the information from the lecture. They just wanted the Cliff Notes of what somebody else took from it. And that's kind of where today things are from a journalism standpoint. And it falls under the category of either get on board and realize this is where we are, or you kind of get lost. And I totally commend and applaud and appreciate Dustin, who's going to join us coming up in just a couple of minutes, or the folks in local television that are still holding on to that principle of the journalistic pillar. But they also are navigating through the fact that their long-form articles are now having to be accompanied by smaller snippets, smaller, quick videos. And I understand and respect that that is where we are as a society of what people have come to know. The problem is those are easier to replicate. And so somebody who did not go through the principal school and background training of the sourcing and the verification of quote-unquote journalism now can easily blend in and be blurred with anybody else, and therefore what they put out there, so long as it's out there enough, it becomes fact. It becomes fact. Well, I know it is because I'm guilty as charged like the rest of us. But Eddie, be honest, there has been at some point a headline or a post that you saw that even if for like 2 or 3 minutes before you realized it, that you assumed was correct, and then you looked at it and you're like, wait, this is completely fake. Whether it be during NBA trade deadline, whether it be during the NFL release dates, whatever it might be, there's always something that comes out there where you're like, wait a minute, and you repost it or you tell somebody about it, and then you look and you go, oh, wait a minute, that's actually a fake account. But if it's out there enough, you assume it's real.
Yeah.
And I think that the fever allowed those non-real things to be posted out there enough. And I'm sure there are people that are like, dude, what are you talking about? Clearly they don't get along. Okay. I can only tell you does it make me a mouthpiece? Whatever. I don't know. I mean, I can only tell you that I think they erred. So I think there's guilt on both sides here. But clearly now they're like, look, enough is enough. Enough is enough. We're going to speak up about it. Now, the bittersweet aspect that Eddie played in terms of the intro there of the New York Knicks winning the NBA title. It was bittersweet. It was bittersweet to see New York win their first title in 53 years. It was kind of sweet because, well, let me begin with the bitter. It's bitter because it feels like it should be Indiana. It should have been a year ago. I hesitate to say if Halliburton hadn't gotten hurt because it makes it sound like I'm blaming Tyrese Halliburton and it's not his fault. Wasn't his fault. He left everything he had on that floor. Basketball gods said otherwise. Even fans in Oklahoma City know that. I can assure you. But it did feel like as you were watching Game 7 and the Pacers were that close, and then you began thinking, well, next year's the year. And then before the injury, I'm saying. And now it feels like maybe not this coming year, but next, because you're still bitter that Miles Turner left. You're still bitter that they had to go out and make some changes, right? But there's an element of it that was sweet because I know in Indiana, when it comes to basketball, we say we grow basketball here. We do. But New York is pretty basketball. New York is a basketball town. The Yankees have the second highest number of professional sports championships in North American sport behind only the Montreal Canadiens, if I'm not mistaken. But even still, with all of the Yankees titles and Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig and Joe DiMaggio and Aaron Judge and Derek Jeter, with all of that, it's a basketball town. Because when you think basketball and you think legends, you think about Power Memorial and Lou Alcindor, and you think about Rucker Park and the great tournaments there. You think about West Fourth and playing in the cages and the Garden. Aside from Indiana, I'm saying, but in terms of like city basketball, New York City is basketball. And if we live in Indiana, part of why Pacers Knicks became what it did, the Knicks and Bulls had great rivalries over the years. But why are the Pacers such a rival to them? It's because there is an element of almost this respect level of where it is. They are the two areas where basketball is so revered and grown. It's just one of them, it's on Chain Link Parks, and the other, it's on the side of Barnes. But either way, it was sweet to see New York win it because you can understand and appreciate what basketball means, but also to see that city collectively and all the boroughs and everybody in the streets and singing Empire State and singing New York, New York. It made it sweet to understand and envision and dream about what it's going to be like. And I'm not going to say if, I'm going to say when. What it's going to be like when the Pacers eventually break through and win one.
Now, Jake, with the show moving to 1 o'clock, 11:24 is the time right now.
Mm-hmm.
Are we still morning?
Yeah, I think so, right?
So I was just thinking about this. Like, you know, you intro the show typically, at least previously, you would say good afternoon. Now you say good morning. Now when he gets to 11, what do you say? Good morning, afternoon?
I think
good morning, pre-afternoon?
Good lunch day?
Good brunch? Good brunch hour?
I think you'd say good lunch day, right?
I don't know, because then obviously at noon you can say good afternoon. These were the things I was thinking about last night that kept me up.
3:48 in the morning, were you thinking about
Yeah.
this? That's a good question when you mention it.
You know, inadvertently, when I would text guests, you'd be like, hey, can you join Jake this afternoon at blah, 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 blah.
I know.
I did it today, and Dustin DePurat goes, you're going to have to reword that now. He goes, I got what you're saying. You got to break the habit. It's no longer afternoon. I was like, oh, that's true.
It's like giving a nun a kiss. Just don't get in the habit.
Yeah, I know.
Right? Isn't that right?
Yeah.
You did get a hold of Dustin, though, right?
Yeah, he's good to join us here, bottom of the hour.
Hang on.
Oh, is that the alarm to wake up?
Yeah, sorry. I hadn't made the adjustment.
Are those bells?
It's 11:25, Eddie. My alarm just went off.
Is that your alarm to wake up? Alarm to shower? Alarm to leave the Boo Mansion? What is it?
No, that's my alarm to wake up.
Okay.
11:25 typically, but, we're halfway through the show today. It's the beauty of this shift. But for the Knicks, bittersweet. Bitter because it should have been the Pacers, but sweet because it got me thinking about what it's going to be like when Indiana breaks through. But what does it mean? Dustin Dopirak is the beat writer for the Pacers for the Indianapolis Star. We'll discuss exactly that next. Hey there, it's Jake Query. One of the beauties, the real beauties of this new time shift is the fact that we now get a chance to go and enjoy the lunch buffet from Chicago's Pizza, as so too can you. Right now, as a matter of fact, until 1:30, your chance to get out and enjoy the lunch buffet from Chicago's Pizza. 19 Central Indiana locations. There are 26 statewide. Think about this. Whether it be traditional pizza that you enjoy, a deeper dish pizza that you enjoy, how about a salad bar right there on ice, cool, crisp, refreshing with every dressing that you could possibly imagine. That with breadsticks, dessert pizza, and a soft drink for a price that's the same that you're going to pay across the street. That's what I love about Chicago's Pizza. You've heard them in here talking to us about their value to community, family, and just the neighborhood in general. But on top of that, the very best when it comes to lunch every single day. And don't forget, in the evening, the family meal deal. 2 medium, 1 topping pizzas and a fresh order of breadsticks for just $25. I love Chicago's Pizza with a story in every slice, and I know you will as well. Chicago's Pizza. Find them online at chicagospizza.com.
This is Query and Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
New York Knicks, the NBA champion. Jalen Brunson was outstanding. No question about that. Absolutely no question about it. By the way, somebody mentioned to me that Jordan's ankle injury was in year number 2. I thought for certain he had games that he missed as a rookie as well. I could be wrong in that in terms of the number of games he played, but either way, it was obvious from the get-go is what I'm getting at, that he was off and running, no question about it. But Brunson was outstanding for New York. OG Anunoby was huge, and the Spurs simply. Eddie, do you give me credit? I said Knicks in 6. I was off by a game, but I have not harped too much on the fact that I told everybody New York was going to win, right?
I mean, you had a 50-50 shot, Jake, so you're really going out on a limb there.
Okay, thanks. It was year 2. Jordan played 18 games. He played 82 games as a rookie. San Antonio very clearly looked like a team that they are not going away anytime soon, but they were not ready for that moment. And I don't know what they were doing in terms of their rotations. Why Dylan Harper wasn't on the floor for a lot of late game situations. And Wembanyama, and this is one of the challenges of having a unicorn like that is I think sometimes people don't understand exactly how to use it. But Wemby is so gifted, but at the same time, he's unstoppable down low, and I know that it is incredible, his ability to shoot from the outside, but they almost became too reliant on it. And it's like, man, you got to go to where a guy's strength is, right?
Well, how much of that is Wemby and how much of that is Mitch Johnson? Because the way that Wemby was acting, he looked gassed.
He did.
And typically when you start getting gassed, you start just doing what's easy, and that's taking jump shots, and they start falling short.
I mean, that's fair, but he definitely there's no doubt that and I saw a lot of people that were unhappy with him, and I'm like, do we know enough about him yet to determine whether or not he's likable, unlikable? He seems likable to me, but nonetheless, Knicks go on to win it. Dustin Dopirak is the beat writer for the Pacers for the Indianapolis Star. Dustin, I'll begin with this. I was saying that watching that, to me, it was bittersweet because it was bitter because it should have been the Pacers a year ago, but to me it was also sweet because I look at it and say, New York, with all due respect, obviously they're the champions, but some things fell the way for the Knicks this year in the postseason, and for Indiana, I think you have to be optimistic about their ability not to pick up right where they left off, but once they form and gel, should they stay healthy, that they would be right still in the mix. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, no, I do. I mean, I think you do have to not only give credit to the Knicks, but acknowledge that, I think the Pacers made them better. I think in part simply because they made a coaching change and got rid of what was their, biggest Achilles heel when dealing with the Pacers themselves, was that, the Pacers could wear them out. Like, I knew the Pacers were going to win that series last year because the Knicks had just put so many minutes on those main five guys. And, Miles McBride got to play some and Mitchell Robinson got to play some, but, that was about it. And Thibodeau just sort of he basically introduced himself to a handful of guys in the course of that series that had barely played all year. And, their coaching change, I think Thibodeau's a really, really good coach. I think he set a really good culture, but the major thing Mike Brown did was trust other guys. So that makes the Knicks a stronger opponent to deal with. The Pacers are not going to have the same trump card with the Knicks that they had in the two series in which they defeated them. But I think you look at it and say, okay, well, the Knicks are not so far more talented than the Pacers. The Pacers, when the Pacers are full strength, that they don't belong there. They're going to belong. I think they're going to be able to get, if you imagine a fully healthy Pacers roster with this group, going up the Knicks, they're not going to get their doors blown off. If you just reimagine that series, obviously there's a whole bunch of other things that happen on the way. And, several years we've thought, okay, well, it's going to be these two teams in the Eastern Finals, and it's not. But, if you just say, okay, well, who's the best team? Who's the champs? Right now, it's like, all right, can the Pacers hang with them? And the answer is yes, they can. They certainly can. Make that a game, make that a series. They have the talent when fully healthy to be there. There's a lot, obviously, that has to go right. Obviously, Halliburton's continued recovery has to go. There's going to be a struggle period at some point in there, and he's going to have to work his way through that. They're going to want to get hot at the right time. Obviously, that's a really big part of this, is that, you might be the best team all year. We've seen it. And, just in April, May, June, you're not you don't have the same juice. You might peak early and not quite be there. But yeah, I think you look at it and say, okay, well, if the Knicks can win with what they have, can the Pacers win with what they have? And I think they absolutely can.
Dustin, I think it is, and it has always been in any sport, but notably in the NBA, it can be a copycat league. And the Pacers, I think, if you go back and you look, not at the finals run, but the year before that in the in-season tournament, the pace in which they played, the fast nature in which it was head on a swivel of their shooters on the floor, their spacing, and their pacing. With that, teams have accelerated a little bit. New York went away from the grind it out, right? And they did play faster. Indiana now loses some of that with Turner, with Zubats. Are we seeing Rick Carlisle perhaps masterfully pivoting away from just when everybody else is copycatting Indiana style to pivoting away from that into a hybrid that, again, is going to force teams to have to copycat what they're doing? Or am I being too optimistic?
Yeah, no, it's certainly. It certainly could be. I think he's always going to, one thing I've always heard about, Rick, when I've done anything that's about Rick as a coach is, Rick plays with the team that he has, and he finds a way to optimize and maximize whatever that is. And so, 3 years ago, that 2023-24 team, it was having wide open spacing. It was having a lot of offensive weapons. It was having the ability to run and shoot and just put up huge scoring numbers. And then, the following year, they could still do that, but they had a lot of bodies that they could trust. So, you turned up defensive pressure. So you're bringing pace and speed on both ends, but it's not necessarily trying to beat everybody 130 to 125. It's also just wearing them down defensively, just making them work the entire time. And, this group will change on the basis of, okay, it has, a couple bigger bodies in there, and maybe that's something that it's going to lean into. I mean, like, where will that all equal out? Like, I don't think they're not going to run. I think they're still going to look at the opportunities to run when they can. I think that Tyrese Halliburton has to play in wide open space. At the end of the day, like, you're still trying to max. That's still the most important asset that you're trying to maximize. That's your franchise player. You have to put him in positions to be successful. So they are going to run. They're going to play in open court, when they have the opportunity. He's a better full court player, I think, than say Brunson is, when Brunson's probably a better half court player, just to have an obvious example there. But you are going to lean into having the size, having the rebounding, all those kinds of things, having multiple guys that can post you up and can take you down low. And I think to your point what you're talking before I came on, it's just, they didn't, the Spurs weren't able to take advantage of the big men they had in there to slow the game down and just go get, 2-point buckets, and we're forcing things. The Pacers are going to have the opportunity to just throw the ball down to a couple people and have them back guys in and get easy buckets or get fouled or something like that. So there can be that, I think, being a pace ahead of it. Well, one way or the other, it's just Rick Carlisle is going to coach the team he has, and he's going to be able to see sort of all of the points and, piece something together that fits for everybody. And that's something he's really, really good at.
Dustin Dopirak is my guest from the Indianapolis Star talking about the Pacers. Dustin, a lot of speculation. Whenever you have an elite player that plays a position that is thought of as being a key jigsaw puzzle piece, then everybody and their brother all of a sudden is going to say, they got to get this guy. They got to get this guy. And the latest of that is Troy Murphy, who is obviously in New Orleans, 21.5 points per game. He's kind of that wing defender / scorer. In my opinion, they already have that, but the Pacers have been linked. But there is a high asking price. Do you believe they are legitimately exploring it?
I believe they're legitimately exploring it. I don't know if they will. I mean, they might. If you consider legitimately exploring it to like call Joe Dumars and say, okay, what's it going to take? Then, I'm sure, it seems like they've done that. I think there's been reporting out that they've shown that level of interest, basically, that they've I think the reporting I saw from Jake Fisher is that there have been incoming calls and not outgoing calls from the Pelicans as far as Murphy, and that the Pacers were one of the teams that called. Now, do they, how far do they go with that? I don't know. I mean, I think you have to look at, the guess that I kind of jotted down before I even saw the reporting, was just, okay, Nesmith, Toppin, 3 first-round picks. Is it enough? I mean, that's all they can really do on the, the basis of, you can't be missing, picks in multiple years, basically. In terms of, when you can trade first-round picks is, all kinds of rules. And actually, my first kind of attempt at putting one of those together got it wrong. But I think at the end of the day, I think they can only trade 3 firsts, even though they have 5 of their last 6. I think based on when they are, that's as far as they can go. And the Pelicans might want more than that, just from a draft pick perspective. I think it's got to be 2. It's got to be 2 of their top 7 guys, or it's got to be Zubac, or they're not going to trade Zubac or Siakam or Halliburton. So out of that kind of next group of 4, which would be like Nembhard, Nesmith, Toppin, McConnell. They've got to trade 2 of those guys to get to Murphy's number. So, that's a big ask. And, I think there is a legit question of, are you better off? For as immense amount of respect as I have for Aaron Nesmith, I think just the scoring capacity that Murphy has would make him an upgrade at the 3. But you're not going to just be able to give up Aaron Nesmith. You have to give up Nesmith and another player just to get to the number. Plus, you're talking about a lot of your future that you'd have to trade. Yeah. So I'm sure they're going to call and ask. And I don't know if that's going to be enough. And I think even if you're the Pelicans, you might still say, that's the best offer you can give it to us, and that's not good enough. We want more than that. They do have a new coach. I think they've got new management. I think, Murphy is one of those guys that you could probably look at and say, I'm not moving this guy unless I get, unless I get a trade that I can build an entire future on. And so I don't know if the Pelicans move him. I'm sure they take calls. And they want to see how far somebody can get. I think, will the Pacers offer that? Probably. Will it be enough? I don't know.
Yeah, I will say that, and I don't know. I'm pretty comfortable in saying this. I don't think Nembhard and Nesmith notably. I don't think the Pacers do any deal that involves those two guys, notably Nesmith. I'm very confident in saying that, Dustin. I just think the asking price is going to be too much, and I don't know that giving up those guys for Trey Murphy to me feels like a push, but maybe I'm just stuck in my ways here, right?
Yeah, I mean, I got it's definitely something that like I look at and I just like kind of have that cringe, like I don't know, like I do I think he individually is better than either one of them individually? Yes, but I think like you're talking at least two guys and picks, like I mean, and I just don't know that the difference is enough. I think there is a gap between Murphy and Nesmith, again, because Murphy's scoring capacity is a little bit better. But I think Nesmith defends enough. He's such a workhorse. He's such a good, I think I get the impression like Murphy would be a really good clubhouse locker room guy. I think he'd fit into their culture really, really well. But so does Nesmith. And it's just like, I just don't think the gap is that big that you also give up, like a weapon like Obi, or if you're trading them both together, if you traded Nembhard and Nesmith together, I don't see it. I just don't think he's better than two people plus picks. I think, he's probably an upgrade individually over any of them, but, it is going to be, I think, a tough decision for them to move somebody like Nesmith because he's just contributed so much, not just the player that he is, but also just that he has been the guy who takes every dirty work job. I've said this before. This is a selfless basketball team, but there's different kinds of selfless. Like there are other guys that will sacrifice their ego or their stats for the team. Nesmith will sacrifice his body on a level that's beyond the rest of them. Like Nesmith will go charge it. Nesmith charges into the fire. He goes and, if LeBron is driving downhill and somebody needs to get in the way to get the ball back, Nesmith will get in the way, in a way that even some of these other guys on the team, I'm making a business decision here. Like Nesmith stands in the way, gets knocked out, and he'll go get that. He'll if he gets a hit pointer out of it, he'll live with it, and that is not something that's easy to come across, at this level. And he's been doing it he's been, he's still he's going to get more money on the end of this deal, but at the moment, I think he's still making $11 million a year. So, that's a guy who, that's a big time value, and it's not something that you should part with easily. Again, I think Murphy's a really, really good player. They might decide that's ultimately worth it. But it was one that they would definitely, second guess. I don't think it happens at the end of the day. I think they're going to call. I think they've already called. I think they've found out what the price is going to be. But I also think they probably know that this is the only price that you can pay, and it might not be good enough.
Dustin, in about 45 minutes, you'll be watching Trey Kaufman and Braden Smith work out in a pre-draft workout for the Indiana Pacers. Is there anything that we can take away from who they've been working out and as to whether or not they have any, decisions to make about trading back into the 2026 draft?
Yeah, I think you could. I think they're just definitely trying to find out what's there. I don't think they'll even make a decision to trade in until after the first day. I think they'll, look at what's there, look at what's around. There's obviously a couple of different options they could go in that way. If kind of early in the round, it would be a situation where you'd have to, they might have, if they're going to move Jarris Walker to clear up roster, to not cap space because they're not under the cap, but to clear out space to move and maybe go try to get a free agent. They could do that and get an early second from somebody from a team that might have salary cap room. If there's somebody good enough that they really, really like who maybe dips that they're not expecting to dip right now, that might be a move that they could go into. And you're not going to see any of those guys in workouts. Basically, like anybody that they consider a top 20 pick is not coming to a workout for a team that does not have a pick. But, I think the rest of it is just sort of filling out, there are not too many top 60 players that they've brought in. I thought Emmanuel Sharp was interesting. I think he's the best player that's come. Sharp gave the impression that's I'm taking a job interview with anybody who gives me a workout, I'm going to take because,
it's like us.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So, precisely. You're not saying no. You're not saying you're not coming in.
This line of work, I'm taking any interview that comes my way, Dustin. Right?
Exactly. Whoever is coming on.
That's right.
But yeah, no, I think obviously they've got to fill out. The depth, the deeper organization. They're going to have to, fill out a summer league roster and an Oklahoma Boom roster, and I think a lot of that is this. Certainly, I think they've always wanted, to be good about getting local guys opportunities, and so I think, and a chance to come home and whatever. So a guy like Braden Smith, who's local from Westfield, Chad Buchanan lives up there. It's like, it's kind of an obvious, one to just throw out there and give him an opportunity to have a cool, like, sort of homecoming thing. But, like, at 38, I mean, I think he's like probably, I think that's where he's rated, is about the 38th, 39th, 40th guy in this draft. This is just kind of the cool thing for Braden to do. And he gets to do it with Kaufman-Renn, who I think is kind of a riser, as a guy who might end up getting drafted or at least get kind of a priority free agency situation. So I think that's, kind of cool too. It wouldn't shock me if you saw Trey Kaufman-Renn get a exhibit 10 or a two-way or something like that. I think that's certainly possible. So, you look into all those kind of further down the line, organizational depth decision. I think that's a lot of what's going on in terms of who they're bringing in for these.
The workouts, the trade rumors, and the roster as of right now appears set, but we'll see if there are tweaks made to it, all covered at the Indianapolis Star with Dustin Dopirak. Appreciate it, Dustin. We'll let you go watch the workouts.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, as always.
Dustin Dopirak joining us on the line. Eddie mentioned something in terms of a photo that was on the Book of Faces over the weekend. I got a bone to pick with that.
What do you mean?
Yeah, I'm now painted into a corner here.
How did I paint you into a corner?
You didn't. But do you hear that noise?
I don't.
Did you ever watch 60 Minutes when you were a kid?
No. I always saw the advertisements for him when I was watching the 4 o'clock CBS game.
Well, if you ever watch 60 Minutes, their intro is exactly the sound that I'm hearing in the background of where my life is now.
Okay.
Clock's ticking. I'll explain what I'm talking about next. Hey there, Jake Query for Surfside and Super Light, which comes in 4 classic sport drink flavors: fruit punch, orange, lemon lime, and blue chill. And this time of year, absolutely perfect from Surfside, the new Super Light, here to fuel the moment with just 90 calories, 0 sugar, and 0 bubbles. Look for Super Light variety packs and individual flavors at stores, bars near you, wherever you buy your favorite adult beverages. But please, when it comes to Super Light and Surfside, please be 21 and please consume responsibly.
You're listening to Query and Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
So, Eddie, you saw a photo that I was tagged in on Facebook, correct?
I did. Yes, it was you, Shannon, and Marie Tiernan from WTHR.
Okay. That was because we were at the wedding reception, and it was a honestly, and I told him this. For those that don't know Amp Harris, I think most people know of Amp Harris. Amp's been on this program before.
Yep.
A long time, at one time, radio personality at WTLC, and then transitioned from that into promoter of different events. Certainly a promoter of the city of Indianapolis and the kids and the people within this town. He does an incredible event every year of getting toys for kids, along with my friend Greg Simmons. And, Amp is somebody that he knows everyone, obviously. I mean, it goes without saying, and everyone knows Amp. And so he got married. He met his now wife 18 years ago at an event here in Indianapolis. She is a graduate of the University of Oregon and grew up in Portland. Kirsten Harris now. She worked for IndyCar briefly, although I didn't know her in that capacity. But they got married. I thought they had already been married, but I believe they got married earlier on Friday, and then the reception was at the Idle-Jorg. It was a perfect night. I mean, it literally was. Friday's weather was the most perfect weather you could possibly ask for. And Friday evening was just perfect. Although it was downtown, you had, I don't know what the concert was at White River, but there was a show there. You had that going on. You had Zubilation going on.
Friday night, that was Jelly Roll and Post Malone at Lucas Oil Stadium.
Okay, but there was something definitely taking place at White River as well, at the Lawn. I don't know if it was a smaller show or whatever else, but we could hear it.
The Indianapolis Indians were also playing Friday night.
And then you had, I know the parade was Saturday, but there was an event for Pride in Military Park as well. At one point, Chris Hagan showed me his phone, and at one point Hagan screen grabbed it. He said he had 1 mile or 17 minutes, like on his app, driving, and it was like gridlocked. But it was a perfect evening, and Amp and Kirsten had been together for 18 years. And Reggie Wayne and Edgerrin James were there, and Greg Simmons, and several people, got up to give toasts. And many of them pointed out that I think Reggie Wayne got up there and said, I'll be honest, I never thought I'd see this day. I know the two of you have been together forever, never thought I'd see the day. And at one point, one of Amp's friends came up to me and said, hey, question for you. How long have the two of you been dating? And I said, well, 21 years. And he kind of looked around and said, I'm doing 15. Like as if, we've been sentenced to something here. And I said, yeah. And he said, do you think like
what is it, a competition
like
at this point?
He's like, do you think, now is the pressure on here? And during the toasts that were being given, every single person was like, and the whole theme of it kind of was, Amp was just like, 18 years and, and he was giving the reasonings of what made this different for him and, why now he's, married. And I've had my lower back gets sore from time to time, but it isn't now because it was like I had a massage from all of the knee nudges taking place in my lower back during the course of it. So everyone literally, and then people apologize. I'm sorry, I was making a joke. I should have made that joke. And I'm like, except for that you're one of 150 people here that made the joke about the fact that now Amps put the clock on me, right?
Well, yeah. Well, Shannon has definitely already had the clock on you, Jake, ever since my engagement. So now this is just getting accelerated.
But I don't know that yours counts, Eddie, because you got engaged, but you're not getting married for 17 years. Isn't that what you said?
Yeah.
Your wedding date is in 2043, right?
I'm just kidding. No, Jake, we went on a wedding venue tour yesterday.
Oh, really?
We did. We did indeed.
Are most of them impressed that you're planning these things 4 years out?
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They're like, well, typically we get people in here about
like
2 years.
Your reception is going to be at Indianapolis's MLS Stadium, right?
11 Park.
I'm not saying that you're distancing it out. I'm just saying,
Yeah,
it was a wonderful evening, and I told Amp it was truly an honor to be there. It was a great honor to be there, and I'm being flippant, and I'm joking around, but several people did make that joke that now The clock's ticking. And so did you pick a venue?
We haven't picked a venue yet. We've got some more tours coming up this week, and I think we have 2 next week.
Okay. What was the one who's the clubhouse leader?
Oh, really? The front runner is the one of the one.
Okay.
The place we were at yesterday.
And that was?
I don't know if I want to say it yet.
Applebee's?
No, not Club Applebee's.
That's right. We'd make sure that Matt Verderam is there. Mike Chappell going to join us. Going to do so coming up just a couple of minutes from now on this new hour, day number 1 of it here, Query and Company on the Fan.
It's Query and Company.
I'm going to be keeping you company for the next few hours.
You are not going to believe the company.
This company.
You're going to bankrupt your mama's company.
At least I have the radio to keep me company.
On 93.5 and 107.5, The Fan.
Pulisic trying to cut it back. It's Balogun. That time it's in. That time the flag is staying down. That time it's 2-0 United States. Clark to Boston right elbow. One more. Cunningham wants 3. Give her 3. Clark handles. Guarded by Lacan. Screen from Mitchell. Caitlin towards the corner, lobs it inside. Boston sprays it up top. Sophie again, good again! 5 on the shot clock. Hand off to the hot hand. Sophie, now this time she drives. Layup, good! Sophie Cunningham taking over down the stretch. That's 8 in a row for number 8. 33 seconds left. Fever up by 8. Sun not fouling. Caitlin shovel pass. Aaliyah right arc. Back to Caitlin. To Aaliyah, back to Sophie. 3 left wing. Oh! Night in Connecticut!
What a deserving Stanley Cup champion the Carolina Hurricanes are.
And they're going to clinch it appropriately with a total team effort and a shutout. The Carolina Hurricanes have won the Stanley Cup. Wemby tries a 3, puts it up, off the mark. Anunoby the rebound. It's over. It's over. Knicks fans, this is not a dream. Your long wait has ended. Go ahead and cry. After 53 years, the Knicks are finally NBA champions once again.
That's how it sounded with the weekend in sport. The World Cup, the United States winning 4-1. Ivory Coast got a win as well. The Fever winning in Connecticut. The NBA Finals, the New York Knicks, and the Stanley Cup Final goes to the Carolina Hurricanes. Mike Chappell in just a minute here. You know, I will admit it, I said it at the top of each hour here. When it comes to the NBA Finals, notably, and the New York Knicks winning, it was indeed bittersweet. Mostly bitter, I realize, because that should be Indiana. It should. And I gave the disclaimer up the top of the show that a year ago, when we talked about earlier journalism and, you know, Stephanie White and Caitlin Clark discussing that when it comes to the Fever, I readily admit that I sacrificed my journalistic integrity a year ago when I just said on this show, you know what? I'm a lifelong Pacers guy, and to see them have a chance to win it, I'm not going to hold objectivity on this radio program. I was all in, and I still am. And I was bitter because, at the fault of no one but the basketball gods, the Indiana Pacers should have hoisted that trophy a year ago. But it's sweet for two reasons. Number one, because I saw the celebrations in New York throughout all the neighborhoods and the Village and the boroughs and Central Park and all of it, and I started envisioning what it's going to be like when the Pacers do that. And, people spilling into the streets in Fountain Square and being on Mass Ave and flocking to Monument Circle or Gainbridge Fieldhouse, whatever it might be, and the viewing parties and all of it. It'll be glorious. And basketball is revered in New York City. It's a basketball town. It's a basketball town. And in Indiana, we grow up perfecting basketball in small, hot gyms and on the side of barns. And in New York, they do it on the playgrounds. But it is a town with great basketball reverence. But it was a little bit sweet for that reason to see New York do it, even though I hate the Knicks and even though I thought they would never win one under Jim Dolan, because you were happy for OG Anunoby, the quiet star. You were happy for Jalen Brunson, even though I've said the thing about him that's the most unlikable is that there's really nothing about him to dislike. And the celebration was one that, for me, I hate to admit this. I do. But there was a fear of missing out because I lived in New York City in 1994 when the Knicks went to the finals and took on the Rockets. And to live in that city forever, a part of that city is with you because there's just such an internal fortitude that you learn to grow about yourself when you live in New York. But there is a pride. New York is a great city. I hate the Knicks. I hate them. But I do love the city of New York. And I will admit in seeing the celebration that I had FOMO, the fear of missing out. I wanted to be there and then realized that because I wasn't there, at least I'll be here when the Pacers do it. Now, I did see that celebration when the Colts won the Super Bowl. The problem was it was like 27 degrees below zero when they won the Super Bowl. And they did have a parade, although it wasn't a ticker tape parade. It was rather on like golf carts and floats, and Bill Polian had the Lombardi Trophy, and I'll be damned if anybody was going to take it from him because it was frozen to his hands along with his smile. But can the Colts get back there? Good question. They got off to a great start a year ago. Question is, are they going to be able to replicate that start? They just got done with their mini camp, and now there is no activity until training camp begins. Mike Chappell is the dean of covering the Colts. He is with WXIN, Fox 59, as well as CBS WTTV4. Chap, let's begin with that. Now that you've had a chance to see the mini camp, now that we know the health questions the Colts have, along with the Pacers, of their key star coming off of a year ago, they were in good position a year ago when the health gods reared their ugly head for the Colts. Do you feel that, in fact, they are in better shape than what you would have guessed, let's say, a month ago? Chap, your mic's muted. We got Chap on Zoom. His mic's muted. Eddie's giggling.
I'm a freaking rookie. I apologize. I was just so enthralled listening to you and your New York roots that I turned you off.
Now that sounds like sarcasm, Chap, but that's okay.
No, I wish I felt better, but I don't. And it's because again, I posted something last week about the 5 or 6 issues going into training camp or the off season. And the first one is 3 of your most important players you don't know. And the one you know the most about, Daniel Jones, who's coming off an Achilles, you've got a better idea where he is rehab-wise than the other guys. He was 7-on-7 participant. He could have done 11-on-11. They didn't want to risk, a big guy getting in front of him and messing with him. So, but he'll be ready for camp. He'll be ready for the season. But you don't know about Alec Pierce. He had the surgery in March, left ankle, and that was a 4 to 6 month recovery. And 4 months is the start of training camp. 6 months is the start of the season. If it's a full 6 months, it carries into the season. And it's an ankle, so how much work can he do conditioning wise and all that? I'm concerned about that. At a position that there were already questions because of Michael Pittman being traded. And then the other one is DeForest Buckner had surgery on a herniated disc in his neck, upper neck. I guess the neck's upper anyway, upper back. So I think that gives you pause. All three of those guys are so important. And again, I think Jones will be fine. He may be eased into camp, maybe not a full load the first couple of days, but then he will be ready to go. I don't think he plays in any preseason game, so get that out of your head. I think he'll get good work in the joint practices with New England and Atlanta. So I don't know how you can be super enthused, other than you're a Colts fan, with three so significant players. You just don't know. And this is not a profession where, I hope they'll be okay. As Chris Ballard said once, hope's not a strategy. At least it's not a good one. So I think if Jones comes back and plays at the level he did, they've got a chance. But Pierce is so important, just because he was already going to do more, which meant other guys were moving up in the pecking order. And now if he's slow or, heaven forbid, not ready for the season, it moves everybody up 2 notches. So, yeah, I'm a little concerned.
What is your level of concern, Chap, about Alec Pierce?
Oh, on a scale of 0 to 10, probably 6.
Okay.
And just because it's an ankle, and again, what sort of mucked things up is they decided to do that PRP, the platelet-rich plasma injection in January, hoping to avoid surgery, which I understand. If I'm a player, I want to try to avoid surgery. But when that didn't work, you couldn't do the surgery for like 6 to 8 weeks. So that pushed the surgery back, and then that gives you the 4 to 6, which threatens training camp and maybe more so the season. I think the team is very confident Alec will be ready. I hope he is. There's not been a better guy come through that receiver room than Alec Pierce, the way he's handled things, the way he's progressed. Reggie Wayne's had great impact on his career, and you can see it. And Reggie's been in his corner from the day he got here. So I think he'll be okay. But again, thinking's not a good thing until we see him out there again running. Speed's what he is. And when you start messing with ankles, maybe not initially does he have that burst and downfield threat that he needs to be.
Let me rephrase that, Chap, or ask a follow-up, by rephrase. How surprised were you about Alec Pierce having – I understand why they did it, but did you perceive that or see that on the radar, or was it completely out of left field?
Well, it was out of left field because it's something that if you don't know a guy is struggling with something like last year, he was only on the injury report once or twice. Now, he had the concussion, but as far as ankle, I think he might have been on there once, and he might have missed maybe one practice. So you don't know what you don't know, and in things like that, the team doesn't share it. I think it was prior to the draft, is when Chris Ballard mentioned that he had a cleanup procedure, and they expected a 3-month rehab. Well, we were already a month into the rehab, so it was 4 months. So they're taking the early side of it. So I was surprised. We knew about Buckner. We certainly knew about Jones, but these ones that Jim Irsay was always great at that. Well, that this guy had this. Well, no, we didn't, because you guys didn't tell us. And that's something players don't share. So a little surprised, but initially when you hear it's a cleanup procedure, It's just funny. I always chuckle on the way the teams go surgery or procedure. I always figure if they break the skin, it's a surgery. That's the way I am. But I understand this wasn't. There's a difference between Buckner's the neck surgery and what Pierce had. Although Pierce probably considered his a major surgery. Surprised, but not alarmed. But after we talked to Alec, and he really didn't give us a ton of optimism. He said, ready for the start of the season or training camp, early or late, whatever it is. But I understand that it's the media. All of us are really good at when we press the team for a time frame. Hey, it's 4 months. And then when it's 5 months, we say, well, hey, you said it was 4 months. So I understand why they do that. They've been very, very transparent on Daniel Jones. When we talked to him in January, he was set on being ready for the start of the season. And as we've gone on, they've gotten more, maybe 7-on-7 in minicamp, and he did. Might have been able to do 11-on-11. So it just depends on the person. But I was surprised, and I was somewhat more surprised when he was less encouraging by how he looked at his return.
Chap, I want to get back to something you talked about. Mike Chappell's my guest from CBS 4 and Fox 59. When you talked about Daniel Jones and don't expect to see him in the preseason, like through camp, in terms of the games.
No, I'm sorry, preseason games.
That's what I mean, preseason games. Yeah. I'm saying camp, yes. Preseason games, don't expect to see him.
Right.
The only, and you know me, I know that I'm not. I sometimes I think things enter my mind. Sometimes I'm way off base. Other times it's like, yeah, there might be something there. So you tell me with this. I'm not going to say they would have hesitation with it, but does it put them in a potential predicament? Does it put the Colts in a weird situation, an awkward situation? Because if Daniel Jones is not taking snaps in preseason games, even if it's for 1 or 2 series typically, and that means that Anthony Richardson is going to have to take those snaps, it introduces the possibility that Anthony Richardson is going to play very well and look good, and they've already declined his option, and then things just kind of become this weird where are we relationship. Am I overthinking that?
Yep. Yes. First of all, there's no guarantee that he'll be here the second week of August.
Okay.
He has not, as Shane Steichen told us, he has not rescinded his trade request. So he still wants to be traded. There's a mechanism.
But at this point, how are you going to trade him? Because, number one, teams want to see what he can do. And number two, they're all under the assumption he would just be released.
I don't think he'll be released. He's got, Stephen Holder mentioned, and he's spot on, Richardson's got a $4 million roster bonus due the third day of training camp. So if I'm some team that would like to bring in Richardson to be either a developmental guy or maybe a backup guy, I'm waiting until the Colts pay that $4 million. And then I'll trade for him. And then all I'm on the hook for is his base is like $1.145 million. If you trade for him today, then that new team has to pay the bonus. And so it makes sense that to wait, if you're the other team. If I'm the Colts, I want to trade him today. But if I'm another team, I'm going to say, let's let the Colts pay that $4 million, and then we'll trade him for a 6, a 5, probably a 6. And all we owe him is $1 million. So there is a reason. But having said that, 31 teams have had, 3 months, 4 months to trade for him and to give up a 6th round pick or fifth round pick for him, and they haven't done it. So, and if you really wanted him, I don't think a $4 million roster bonus would be the deal breaker. So there's got to be interest. And then I think there's got to be that roster bonus paid by the Colts. And then he needs to play. But if he goes out there, if he's still here, And well, and then they've got to decide is Richardson or Leonard the backup. At some point early in camp, I would think one of those guys has to be getting the bulk of the 2 reps. It's hard to get 3 guys reps. But if Richardson goes out there and just lights it up, he's still the backup. He just is.
So do you believe if Richardson goes out and lights it up, Chap, do you believe that the Colts would see that first and foremost as their benefit because A, he's a really good player and that makes for a good backup, or B, thank goodness he's exhibited something now that somebody will give us something for him?
Yes, either way. And again, as I've said before, I think for me, I think it's best that he's somewhere else. I just think there's too much history, negative history here. Not off the field bad stuff, but just the injuries and the being benched for 2 games and all that stuff. But having said that, you're not going to get a better backup in the season than Richardson. If you need to go a month because Jones is hurt or whatever, isn't Richardson the better option than Riley Leonard?
I would think, right?
I think he is. But so we'll see where this goes. But it's just a dynamic that hasn't played out yet, and there's reasons. I think a week into camp, 10 days into camp, we'll know. Because again, you can't have Jones taking all the ones, and then really it'll be hard to get the number 2 guy enough reps if you're divvying it up. So at some point they need to decide, and that's if a trade does. I really don't think they'd cut him. I just don't think that makes much sense now. There's not much finance. Once you pay the bonus, you say $5 million against the cap, and he can't $5 million in dead money. So yeah, it's a little bit of help, but it's just that one, thread that's still hanging there that needs to be decided, and it probably will be in the first or second week of August.
Now, you cannot, Chap, once you determine and the deadline passes of when you can pick up a player 50-year option on their contract, which the Colts have elected not to do with Anthony Richardson.
Correct.
They cannot go back and then change their mind on that, correct?
Nope. And that's why, too, let's say that he has a good preseason and he comes in and plays 4 or 5 games because Jones gets dinged up, whatever, and he plays lights out. I'm not sure how you afford him next year because you've already got Jones on the hook with that $88 million contract for 2 years. So it seems like they've made the decision on Jones, and it would have made 0 sense to have picked up his option. They couldn't have done it. He gave him no reason to. So they're really in a bad place, in an awkward place with Richardson. You hope he does well for all that you've mentioned, but if he just goes, lights out and really they have a great season and he's the reason they make the playoffs and all that, I'm not sure how you structure anything that lets you bring him back here.
Okay, give me a quarterback, Chap. This is always a fun game. In your time covering the NFL, so I don't mean Colts, I just mean league-wide, give me the poster child of a quarterback that all of a sudden a franchise fell in love with the potential and they had been a backup and it was like some other franchise or whatever comes along and is like they give him a huge contract and then literally 4 starts into it, you're like, yeah, now we're seeing why he was a backup.
Oh, a lot of guys. The one that jumps out at me was Green Bay's. Was it Matt
Flynn? Right?
Matt Flynn.
I've got him written down.
He set the Green Bay record or whatever for touchdowns or yards. Seattle gives him a boatload, and then was that Russ Wilson?
I think that's right.
So yeah, there's a lot of those guys.
Okay,
and,
you remember Rob Johnson?
Yeah,
he fits that category, doesn't he?
Yeah, I'll tell you. Go further back, Scott
Mitchell.
Scott Mitchell.
Those are the 3 names I wrote down.
Yes, and he had that great. Was it the year that Marino tore his Achilles? Maybe.
I think that's right. And then
he had a great season. He might have had a good season. Yeah, he had a Pro Bowl season with the Lions.
Yeah,
with Tom Moore as his coordinator, and then it was like, oh, really? There's so many more of those guys, and what we've seen with that 5th-year option is if you think that's an automatic, and as long as the guy doesn't suck, How about Kyler Murray? He got a 5th-year option.
Yeah.
He's in Minnesota. And right now, Tampa Bay has to decide what to do with Baker Mayfield. Do you give him $45-50 million a year? He's almost that guy that's just good enough.
Boy, you're right.
To make you think you're good enough. And I think he's a really good quarterback, but they gagged as bad as the Colts did last year. So you got to be right. And if you're wrong, if this Jones thing doesn't work, and and there's reasons to think it could, and reasons to think it won't. If it doesn't work, you talked about the Colts getting back to the Super Bowl. I mean, it's going to take 2 or 3 or 4 years to rebuild this thing. It just will. And that's in the best circumstances, and this is not the best because you won't have a first-round pick next year. So there's a lot of reasons to hope that it works. I've just been around too long to know that hoping is really a pretty weak strategy.
Hope is now. I'm telling you right now, Andy Dufresne from Shawshank would disagree. Hope is the best of hope is a good thing, perhaps the best of things. You've seen Shawshank, right, Mike?
Great movie. Yep.
Eddie didn't like it.
Oh, really? My wife doesn't like it.
Okay, hold on. This guy, chap, you know how he is. He over dramatizes things.
No, you said you didn't like it.
No, stop making stuff up.
Did you like it?
I said it was a good movie. Jake was sworn it was like the best thing since sliced bread. So I was going to watch this and anticipating it was the greatest thing I've ever seen. And it was just a little bit of a letdown. The overhype got to me.
Yeah, I wouldn't let Jake sort of set the table on what something's going to be because, well, it's just the three of us talking, right?
That's right. Literally, yes, that's right.
So yeah, I think it's really good. I thought Morgan Freeman was so good in that.
It's a top 10 movie all time.
Yeah, you got to envision yourself, army crawling through that. Was it a mile of sewage?
500 yards of foul-smelling blank that I can't even imagine. Yes,
but I thought it was really good. Now I don't know if it's the best movie I've ever seen, but I thought it was really, really good. So yeah, I enjoyed it.
We're about to mute your mic again, there, chap. Just so you know.
So then there'll be two of you talking.
That's right. Mike Chappell, CBS 4, WXAN, Fox 59. Appreciate the time as always, chap.
I'll catch you next week.
Eddie, we talked earlier about social media and the noise, right? I promise you, it's a hard living. It's a hard living being a cynic sometimes. I don't want to be that way, but there are certain things that eventually I just go, I'm starting to wonder. Now, over the weekend, Eddie, there is something that happened in just pop culture in general that I started seeing all over the place, and now I'm a cynic.
Okay.
And I want you to grade my cynicism. Grade my conspiracy. I'm not saying conspiracy theory, because I'm not going there, but there are certain things that I look at and I go, it doesn't pass the smell test after a while. And I'm going to present to you what it is, and then I want you to tell me if you think I'm onto something and you think that I'm being really insightful, it's an A. If you think it's not bad, it's a B. 50-50, it's a C, although that would be a D, but you get what I'm saying. A to F, I want you to grade it for me. And let me explain what I'm talking about, and then you give me your grade. We'll do it next. Hey, there's Jake Query for Game Day Men's Health. Guys, bathing suit season is here. You want to get back in the game? Avon, Carmel, Fishers, and Greenwood are the clinics for Game Day Men's Health. Perhaps testosterone replacement therapy would benefit you just in terms of getting over that midday feeling of a nap, so to speak. Perhaps, for example, you want peptide therapies, which now you can take in oral form, you can take it in injection, either way for peptide therapies, but it does help with that recovery time after a workout. You feel that energy, you feel less pain, less ache after a workout. Weight loss injections also possible from Game Day Men's Health. A number of different things that they provide, guys, all to get you back in the game and to get you up and healthier, reclaim that game and that feeling that you had some time ago when workouts just didn't seem to be this laborious, or for that matter, when it came time to just making sure after a workout that you were able to get back in it more quickly. And FDA-approved pharmacies, of course, with Game Day Men's Health. They are the very best. Scott and his group in Carmel, love them. Fishers as well. Avon and Greenwood, all of them. You can find out everything they have to offer to you at GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Set a consultation appointment that is free to go in, look over. If you want to talk to your primary care physician as well, that's cool. All available, GameDayMen'sHealth.com, to look at all of the services they provide and set that consultation appointment. GameDayMen'sHealth.com.
This is Query and Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Okay. I don't dislike what I'm about to talk about. I think it's cool. But I'm like, what's going on here? I had, over the weekend, someone tagged me. Are you aware of the young woman from Sweden, as we call it, that was just roaming through Indiana?
No.
Okay. So last week, someone tags me on the Expos Twitter, and they're like, oh my gosh, Jake, like this is perfect for you. There was this, now I don't mean the young woman, but with the World Cup being in the United States, there was a young woman, an influencer, I would assume, from Sweden that is here for the World Cup. And, I mean, she's this absolutely strikingly gorgeous, supermodel-looking woman, very attractive. And she's like, I'm in Indiana as part of my tour of the United States, and oh my gosh, it's amazing here. The food is incredible. I've never had ranch dressing before, but this is amazing. And someone tells me that I need to have a tenderloin in Indiana. And so someone tagged me, and they're like, Jake, like, you know, you're the Indiana hospitality guy. Here as somebody from Europe, you should show around. Not because it happens to be like this Super 10, you know, perfect 10 supermodel. And so I'm like, what's this? So I look at her feed, and this woman who came from Sweden for the World Cup is literally going to Ivanhoe's in Upland, Indiana, and getting a hot fudge sundae, and then getting a tenderloin at Mug and Bun, and getting ranch dressing homemade at wherever, you know, dive bar. And then the next day suddenly is magically like in Oklahoma at a home chili place or whatever else on her way to whatever World Cup match. And I thought, oh, okay. And there are photos of her in front of these places. Okay, sure. That's cool. The next day, I'm looking. Let me see if I thought I screen grabbed a couple of these. But the next day, okay, here's another one. So then the next day I look, and here's this beautiful woman. I mean, gorgeous, from England. Little treat for my new American followers. And it's her it looks like she's at an In-N-Out. And she's like trying In-N-Out for the first time. American food is incredible.
I did see that.
And then she also mentions that her OnlyFans is 99% off for today.
Okay.
Then the next one. This is the best food I've ever had in my life. America, you keep on delivering. This from an absolutely beautiful model from Germany that's here for the World Cup and is touring through the Route 66 venture. Okay, that's cool. Here's another one. Americans, where do I travel next in my RV? I'm loving all of the food. This from Bella, who is, I believe, Croatian. Absolutely beautiful. Beautiful woman. Listen, I think it's great that the World Cup is in the United States, and I love everything about it. I love the different cultures that are here. I think it is super cool. Michael from Australia is coming. He's going to a match in Philadelphia. I think I'm going to drive and meet him in Pittsburgh for dinner. And then he's going, I think, to L.A.
You're going to burn the fuel of the new car already?
That's a hybrid. 50.3 miles to the gallon over the weekend, by the way. It's the average.
How many miles are you up to now? You're driving that thing around like it's...
No. Well, I mean, I drive a lot. My car had 158,000 miles on it. It was a 2018, keep in mind. I probably put 400 miles on it. Just in driving around, to be honest with you. But either way, I think it's wonderful that people from all over the world, and this is what I love about these things. I love it about the Olympics. I love it about, I mean, when we had Zach Kiefer on and Anne-Marie Tiernan from the Winter Olympics in Italy, and just asking them about, like, what's it look like? What's the neighborhood, the village look like? How's the food? Those things. I mean, that's what's wonderful about these things is, like I've always said, nothing unifies the masses like sport. I love it. New York City, the Knicks win the title. People from different neighborhoods, different cultures, different backgrounds, different languages, all coming together to celebrate that. I love it. The same with the Indy 500. As I said this year at the Indy 500, when I look out over turn 3, I see people of all backgrounds, all collectively enjoying the same moment. So I'm totally here for the notion and the thought of people coming and enjoying America and seeing what we have to offer and enjoying it to see their beautiful game. But it does feel a little bit, I'm like, wait a minute. In the AI era, what is the end game here, or is it possible? And I don't know who it would be or what the end game would be or why it would be done, but are there really absolutely gorgeous, perfect 10? And there's a guy too, I think that's German.
There is, yeah. J.J. Watt got him hooked up with some all-inclusive resort or something down in Houston. I don't know.
All of these beautiful people that just happen to decide to all take 3 weeks vacation at the same time and conveniently stop in Upland and Muncie, Indiana, in between going to a World Cup match in Kansas City and Miami.
Well, it's probably an easy airport to fly into, Jake, just because of the international flights.
Which?
Indy.
Okay, but why? I mean, am I wrong in saying that something about it, one or two of those is kind of fun, but when you start seeing it from literally every country that's playing in the World Cup happens to have some influencer here, and they're all like, oh my gosh, the food here is amazing. Everything about it. Again, I'm here for it if it's real. Am I wrong in being skeptical of the authenticity of all of this?
You're sounding a little old, Jake. I mean, you went on your bot rant earlier. Now you're in a full questioning mode of everything you see on social media, if it's AI or if it's true.
I don't think it makes me old. I think it's the opposite, right?
What do you mean?
I think it makes me intuitive to the way that the realities of 2026.
Maybe.
If I was old, I'd be falling for all of it.
I don't know. You see a lot of stuff I don't on social media because I don't go on the For You tab. I'm always on the following
See,
tab.
mine automatically goes to the For You. When I have to always when I click on my app for Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, the timeline that I get is the For You. I then have to switch over to the following. But have you noticed it? Let me ask you that. Have you noticed what I'm talking about?
No, I haven't. Just because I don't get on
it's
the
not
For
in
You.
your algorithm, probably, right?
Yeah. And plus, I don't click on it. If it was there, then if I click on it, then more of them are going to pop up.
Correct. Again, it's just very odd to me. It's cool. It's cool, but it seems like it I don't know. I'll stop there as to not sound too ridiculous. But after a while, it just started to seem like a little bit, wait a minute. If in fact, there is something to be gained by the 37 most beautiful women between the ages of 22 and 26 and the 15 most physically fit men between the ages of 25 and 30 that all live in Europe. If, in fact, there's something to be gained by them all coming to the United States to eat milkshakes, eat tenderloins, eat corn dogs, and drink ranch dressing, then cool. I'm here for it. Go to drive-ins, all the things that makes America, America. I'm here for it. I do think it would be very cool. I know John, for example, was giving away tickets to the World Cup. We have tickets to give away as well in just a minute I'll get to. But John was talking about he had tickets to the World Cup in Kansas City. I think it'd be awesome. And that's probably there have to be matches in Chicago, right?
I would have to look and see. I know LA, Houston, Kansas City, Miami, yes.
Seattle,
Pittsburgh.
No, Philly.
Sorry, Philly, yes.
Seattle. I would assume DC. But just the videos that I've seen, I mean, it's awesome.
Los Angeles, Miami, Atlanta, Seattle, Houston, Philly, Kansas City, Boston, Dallas, San Francisco, New York.
Okay, so no Chicago. Nope. So Kansas City's the closest to here.
Mm-hmm.
The videos that I've seen of different cultures and different dances and music and everybody celebrating, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's pretty cool. I saw a video yesterday of I think it was fans from Mexico and Scotland, maybe, that were all like in the streets in Boston or somewhere, like celebrating. And I did see that in Boston, Zach Osterman, Tennant's, which is a beer that I had in Scotland and just loved it when we were in Edinburgh. In Boston, there were a couple of bars that loaded up on kegs of Tennant's because Scotland is in the World Cup there and they're already out of it. They've run out after like a week. We have tickets to give away, correct, Eddie?
Yes, we do, Jake.
And that would be for the Dave Matthews Band, is that right?
Yes, Dave Matthews Band. That concert is at, now do you go Deer Creek? Do you go Verizon? Do you go with its actual name of the Ruoff Music Center?
I mean, I guess we should say Ruoff, but I think saying Ruoff at Deer Creek is probably the best way to say it to appease both, right?
Yeah, that's Friday, June 26th. So that's in 11 days. That date can't be right. It is.
Okay.
Yeah, Friday, June 26th. We have a pair of tickets for that.
By the way, Mark Dykton chimes in. There is no World Cup in Chicago because FIFA and the city couldn't come to an agreement. Well, they should have had it in Hammond. Right? World Cup in Hammond coming soon. Okay, tickets June 26th, Dave Matthews. How would you like to do this, Eddie?
I always enjoy doing the text line because I like seeing.
Did you grade my conspiracy theory? A to F?
No, I didn't grade it because I didn't listen.
No, not my conspiracy theory, but just in terms of my skepticism of all of these beautiful influencers, it seems odd to me. Do you?
I don't know. I would need to. I would need
observation. What would you grade it?
I would need to look at the tweets, Jake, to see if they're all like the same kind of. Typically, you can snuff out if it's AI or not because they'll all use the same.
Correct.
Words.
They do. Oh my gosh, it's amazing here. The food is fantastic. Thank you, America. It's like the same thing, and I'm like, it just seems odd to me. That's all. Okay. Anyway, so how are you doing the ticket giveaway?
I always enjoy the text line to see how many people we have actually listening.
Let's do it the way we did last time. I always enjoy this.
Okay.
You have to send, especially since we're new here on the 10 to 1, even though 12 o'clock people are used to hearing us. But this is a new time frame of 10 to 1. You have to send something on the text line that indicates that you listen to this show, that you have previously listened to this show. So some sort of a phrase, some sort of an inside joke, some sort of a theme, something that indicates that you listen to this program. And what number texter that sends one of those little tidbits are we going with, Eddie? 18?
Do we want to go with the number or do you want to go with the best reference?
Okay, the best reference, and I'll leave it up to you. And we'll find out what John's got going at 3 o'clock today as part of our Love, Heating, and Air. Right now, I figure we'll just call it the cool down because we're cooling down. We're cooling down towards the end of our day, and you might need a cool down with your air conditioning. And Love Heating and Air, an official Heil Heating and Cooling dealer, can give you exactly that. So we'll find out what John's got cooking and preview what he has at 3 o'clock. We'll do it and put a tie on all of it on the other side. What happened? What are we doing here?
I don't know what I did, but the computer just froze.
Now that we're on 10-1,
I think, Jake, I think
it's a good
all
thing
the
everything's
text.
shutting down for us at the end of the show, right?
I think it's all the text, legitimately.
Some really good ones here. I love this, by the way. The kids are saying QR. Yes, that's a great one.
No, they're not.
Right? I would like some
They're
tickets in
not.
sections QR.
I do have a question because I need this to be true. Because if this is true, Jake, then I think we have our winner. And I have to find the person who submitted it in, but I found it. Where did you buy your favorite suit?
That is a. I saw that one. That was the one that jumped out at me. I have always told the story, Eddie. That's a deep cut. It has a terrible beginning to it, but when I was working at Channel 6, I won't say what it was. It was a very uncomfortable assignment, but I got an assignment to cover a funeral. A highly publicized passing, and I went out of town to cover the funeral. And the funeral was at like 11 a.m., and I had to do live cut-ins during the noon show for Channel 6. And I flew down the night before to where the funeral was, and they lost my luggage. And I had a garment suit with a suit in it so that I could be in a suit on television. And they lost my luggage, and I think I had to do something on the morning show as well. And so there was no, I'm like, well, they had no idea where my suit was. And I was wearing, it was a warm climate, so I was wearing like shorts and a T-shirt. And I'm like, I need to buy a suit for the morning show. Like, they lost my luggage, and I landed at 11 o'clock at night. And they said, well, the only place around here you could probably even buy it would be, there's a 24-hour Walmart like 40 minutes away. And I went to a Walmart at 1 o'clock in the morning, and they had one suit, and the pants were like a 42 length. And so I had to Tom Sawyer the pants. You couldn't see the ankles, obviously, but at the church itself, I'm sure people were like, what in the world is that guy wearing? And that suit that I bought the suit, I had to buy the suit, the dress shirt, the tie, and the shoes, all of it. And all told, everything out the door was like $109. The suit was like $79 or something. And then the shirt, literally everything. $119 maybe. And that suit I have worn for years. When I wore it on television, literally I got emails for days of people asking where I bought the suit. They're like, that is the most beautiful, like, is that an Armani? I mean, it is a beautiful navy pinstripe suit. And it came from the Walmart, I mean, I'll tell you, in the state of Florida. That's a deep cut.
That is a deep cut.
I've told that story on the air. That is fabulous.
I thought the other one that's I think the two front runners, Jake. This one is from Glenn. The other one was from JJ. In the closet, you have a drywall autograph wall at your parents' house in your bedroom.
True. Jake once updated the score of an IU game during a live high school production of Junior Spec at North Central. Wow. Okay. Deep cut also.
I don't even know that one.
In that one, though, I didn't update the score. What I said was we could be home in time for the Ball State UNLV game in 1990. I ad-libbed that line in Junior Spec. That's solid. Very solid.
You got a Bismack Biyombo reference too, Jake. How about that?
You know why Bismack Biyombo is my favorite NBA player, Eddie?
Because his name is Bismack Biyombo.
His name is Bismack Biyombo.
Almost a NBA champion. By the way, is there anybody who could have had a better time the last 2 to 3 weeks in the NBA Finals than Jeremy Sohan?
Yeah.
He was getting a ring regardless of the outcome. He was on the Knicks, obviously, who won the finals, but started the season with the San Antonio Spurs. Therefore, he would have gotten the ring.
He averaged 1.8 points and like 4 rebounds a game, right? And was smoking a cigar and walking around.
Dude thought, yeah, he was on top of the world.
Yeah.
As Imagine Dragons put it.
This from Indy Dave. Jake outkicked his coverage by finding Shannon.
Well, we all knew this. What woman in their sane mind would stick through someone for 21 years and not have a ring on their finger? I think there's only one, and it's Shannon.
She has several rings.
None of them are from you.
No, she has several. I've given her several rings over the years.
None of them are the big one.
Okay, that part might be true. Upcoming, by the way, 3 o'clock today, J&B, the crossover brought to you by the good guys at Love Heating and Air. Love-HVAC.com. 317-353-2141 is the telephone number for Love Heating and Air, an official Heil Heating and Cooling dealer. As we cool things down, I can tell you John later today will be heating things up. Former U.S. Men's national soccer player Jay Demerit going to join Stephen Holder as well, as they will continue the conversation Eddie and I had about the Colts, and also, of course, probably get more into the World Cup than we did with a former member of the U.S. men's national team. Eddie, which one did you decide for the tickets?
I think we have to go with JJ, the suit from Walmart. That's
impressive.
A deep cut.
That is a deep cut indeed.
Glenn, that's also a good one with the drywall and the autograph.
Feels just like San Diego outside. Yeah. 363 days a year is correct. All right. I appreciate everybody riding through with us. We will be back with you at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Thank you for listening to Query & Company.